baseline tariffs. We're still talking about big tariffs on cars and car parts. And then, of course, China is the massive X factor here. You know, we slapped them with 104% tariffs. Now it's up to 125. They hit the United States with those reciprocal tariffs because of the retaliation there. So there's still a lot of questions about what's going to happen next.
The House expected to vote on the Republican budget blueprint resolution tonight, but House Speaker Mike Johnson may not have enough Republican support. He can only afford to lose 3 votes. Flooding remains a threat in parts of the South and Midwest after this week's storms. This is ABC News. More than a dozen new sounds are being added to the National Recording Registry at the Library of Congress to preserve the work of artists and their music and much more.
New entries to the National Recording Registry range from Elton John's 1973 album Goodbye Yellow Brick Road to Celine Dion's Titanic hit My Heart Will Go On. But it's not all music. Chuck Thompson's broadcast of Game 7 of the 1960 World Series, and even Microsoft's Windows 95 startup sound, all now a part of the Library of Congress. Mike Dubusky, ABC News.
Uber is out with its latest Lost and Found Index. The top 3 commonly left behind items were phones, keys, and wallets. The most forgetful city, also the most busiest, according to the ride-sharing app, is New York City. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative to aid delinquent taxpayers. This initiative was established for anyone facing financial hardship and unable to pay their back taxes. Qualifying and enrolling in this program will stop all collections, settle your delinquent tax problem, and even reduce what you owe by thousands of dollars. Call the hotline at People's Tax Relief to see if you qualify and get this free information by dialing 800-810-3588. If you have unfiled tax returns or cannot afford to pay your personal or business back taxes, you can now get the help you need. One simple phone call can resolve your tax problem and save you thousands of dollars. To see if you qualify and to get this important free information, call 800-810-3588. 800-810-3588. 800-810-3588.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Grovender.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, the home of El Dafos Tacos. If you didn't miss it, if you didn't catch it last week, then you missed out. You should have been here.
Oh, there he is. There's the founder of El Dafos Tacos.
I've been here the whole time, sitting in the waiting room.
You just showed up just when it was going live.
He was finishing off a taco. I know it. He was eating an Adolfo's soft shell taco.
The Taco Man. So great, everybody made it here. I thought Todd was going to be late, but he made it here on time. I guess he's Mr. Punctuality, threatened him with putting tardiness in his permanent record. And
right, you did. I appreciate it. And how appropriate. I was actually at a school board call meeting there for budget. And you said, I'm going to put it on your permanent record. I'm looking around this room and all these former teachers and administrators. I'm thinking, like, how many times have they used that or have they done that growing up to somebody to scare the heck out of them, to get them scared straight, if you will, the permanent record.
Holding that ruler up in the air. This will go on your permanent record there, young man.
Uh-oh.
I'm like, I'm going to be a truck driver. I don't care.
Yeah, we're rebellious, whatever.
So how are things going out there in Northeast Tennessee for you there, Todd?
Not too bad. We had storms in the west. I mean, like we had them here. A few Hurricane Helene destroyed some stuff here, but out west with tornadoes in Middle Tennessee, just flooded a lot of towns and destroyed a lot of stuff. I'll be out there starting tomorrow through the weekend. I'll be able to take a peek and see what's going on out there. But we may need some assistance from some people for sure.
Yeah, I saw that Kentucky got it really bad, I guess, with a lot of flooding. And
the Ohio River, flooded big time. And it was all that same storm cell that moved through West Tennessee up to Kentucky and Ohio.
Yeah, it's ridiculousness. Chris, how things going out there in southeastern Pennsylvania for you? Everything going okay? You all holding it
Well,
together?
in South Central PA, it's quite lovely here. Central PA, great day, great weather day today. It was nice, but I understand we're getting the rain coming tomorrow next day. So I managed to go out and clean up my raspberry patch, dig out all the dead ones and trim them back and prune them. Plant a couple new ones, refix the bed because the soil shifted. That earth kind of spins, it kind of affects the soil there, moves it around. Got that done, yeah. And looks like I got a little bit of sun the time I was out there. I look kind of red today, so I got a bit of a lobster there. But I went to mow my lawn and realized that the handle on the lawnmower, there's a bolt missing. So I got to order a bolt because can't push it now. So couldn't cut my grass. It's already time to cut the grass. But things are all right. Doing a lot better than China is with 125% tariffs.
They're going to feel the crunch.
Yeah.
They are going to feel it. So, well, yeah, man, cutting the grass out there in Pennsylvania. Geez, man, we've had some snow and mixture over here in New Hampshire here.
I think we're kind of in a sweet spot there, John, because Todd got some bad weather. You got some other bad weather. We're kind of stuck in the middle. But, Todd, last night I took a slight break, and you'll never guess what I listened to last night.
Oh, I don't even want to venture a guess because I'd probably be way wrong. So I don't want to insult you.
Yeah, I think about high school. As the older I get, the girls just stay the same
nice.
age. All right,
Yeah.
all right.
You watched a little Dazed and Confused. That's cool. All right.
Indeed, I did.
All
Indeed,
right,
indeed. All right. I know you love that phrase. That's why I did that.
Oh, Banyan, he failed again. What a
Oh, gosh. Oh, man. Oh, jeez.
Let's go bust some freshmen of the paddles. I love it.
So messed up. But
it is. Great
so
cars,
messed
though.
up.
Great cars, though.
Yeah. No, it's interesting to watch all the actors and where they wound up over the years. Some of them made it
Mhm.
big, some of them didn't. So now some of them are just becoming kind of big. Again, Cole Hauser's on that Yellowstone show. He became big. Yeah. So, yeah. All right.
You're going to jail. You're going to go to jail, Wooderson.
That's right. Yeah, man. One day you're going to jail, man.
Yeah.
Is she a freshman? Oh my gosh.
Growing up, going to high school, seeing some of these old guys, and what I assume were older guys, probably in their 20s, early 20s, coming and picking up their high school girlfriends, and that was just so weird to me. And it's like, yeah. And then you watch that movie, and it's like, yeah, that went on. That's weird.
Yeah, that's how it was. Yeah. Anyway.
Mhm.
All right, John. So we're done doing our days confused, man. We can get back to the show now.
All right. I guess it's all over the news that China got hit with 125% tariffs, and 70 countries got an extension for 90 more days. I was kind of surprised. I guess Trump kind of caved under pressure with the stock markets or concern over the stock markets. So.
Man, no. I'm not, that's not my assessment.
What's your assessment, Chris?
I published a video reporting that, and I'm getting this from people who hate Trump. No, my assessment is the following. The tariffs all along have been a bargaining tool. People are ignoring Trump, and he said, fine, I'll teach you. I'll learn you. And so he slapped the tariffs on people. And then they came running to the table. So they said, okay, you know what? If you're going to negotiate in good faith, then we'll talk about it. You get 90 days. Just like TikTok, he gave 90 days to get their act together. So I think that's what's going on here. So he didn't reduce them. Everyone's still got a 10% tariff minimum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they went down to 10%. But for the countries that were in a lot of trouble, like Lesotho, they got a 50%, and they produce 450,000 pairs of Levi's every year. That's going to crush them. So now they get 90 days to get serious about this. The countries really cared. Actually, already sent people to DC.
Right.
Lesotho already, little tiny mountainous Lesotho in Southern Africa already had it. South Africa is completely ignoring it because they're all just a bunch of clowns. But they already came from Lesotho. Japanese were here. And then the South Koreans were here, and they want to work out bilateral agreements. In his first term, Trump talked about bilateral trade agreements. And he established a couple of them, but he didn't get very far with it because all the distractions with Russia, and Ukraine, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And then the COVID scam. So that all kind of distracted, but he tried to do this. Now he doesn't have any of the things weighing him down. His sales are blowing into the wind. And I don't think he backed down at all. This is exactly what he planned for. I mean, It makes all the sense in the world. As far as the stock market crashing, people need to relax. That's why we tell people last week. I had a conversation with somebody. They're like, I'm down like 20%. I'm like, well, unless you bought bad companies, you shouldn't worry. This is going to rebound. And today it went up 2,900 points in Dow Jones Industrial Average.
Everything I looked at was all green across the board for the most part.
Everything was green.
Yeah.
I mean, even bad stocks were green today because enthusiasm was so great. But that doesn't mean anything. People got to quit attaching the stock market to the economy. The stock market is not the economy. And it really, in bad times, the stock market can do well. In good times, it can do poorly. It just depends on what the enthusiasm, what the moving indicators are, what the futures are, all the different things come into play here. I mean, there's a lot of speculation there too. Whereas, how much you produce, how much you sell, what you sell it for, where you ship it to, that's real. That's tangible. So,
Yep.
I mean, that's fine. We have 4% unemployment. The problem we have is the government is sucking all the money out of the economy, spending $2 trillion more than it needs. Stop doing that, and then things will just become hunky-dory, and then we'll be great. But the stock market will recover. People need to take a chill pill, relax, calm down, have a what's those not a Vicodin. That's not what
Chill, just a regular old chill pill.
Prozac.
Prozac. Yeah, have a Prozac. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Prozac.
So
Not a Vicodin, but I suppose Vicodin would help too. But
some of these folks.
Trump's
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Well, I was just gonna say Trump's secretary there for treasurers. He was just doing an interview with Tucker Carlson not too long ago, talking about how Wall Street has had its time, and it's time for some brick and mortar stores. It's time for the lower class to start being prosperous again. That does not necessarily mean that Wall Street won't continue to prosper, won't continue to do good. But it's like you said, Chris, it doesn't depict the economy.
No, it doesn't. And the thing is that the market was severely overvalued. We've known this for several years. It was due for a crash. And you know what? If you're going to have a crash, why not have a planned or scheduled one, so to speak, which is Trump knew they were going to get hit hard. Stocks were going to take a dive. He also knew that he had a bargaining chip. People don't get this. I get these comments on my videos because I published it about 3 hours ago. And I'm just looking at them before we went on air. And people are like, oh, he caved. Oh, he's so dumb. He doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah, he's dumb like a fox, man. He's clever like a fox. I'm going to tell you what, these countries, they're like, oh, who are you to put tariffs on us? South Africa, we're talking about here. Well, you put tariffs on our goods. We give you duty-free access to our market. And you're complaining because now we're going to put tariffs on you? People are so uninformed about what's going on around the world. They have no idea how the United States has been getting screwed for so long by our political leaders who allowed for these things to happen. It's unbelievable. They allowed almost all, not all, but tons of our industrial production to be offshored. The United States produces about $3.6 trillion of industrial production. We ought to be producing about 8 or 10 or 12, but it's all gone to China and to Southeast Asia, and it's no longer here and Mexico and Canada for a few cents on the dollar profit. Just for shareholder return. And that stuff inflates the market. Now, look, a lot of middle class and poor people also have stocks, either through mutual funds or their own or retirement accounts. So it affects them as well. But the bottom line is that the rich guys are getting richer, and it's at the expense. We're producing almost no timber in this country. We have more forests than any country in the world, except maybe Brazil and Russia. And Canada, they're probably the fourth largest forest stockage in the world. And we're not producing timber anymore because it's so cheap to come from Canada because it's subsidized. And we allow that to happen. It's time for that to end.
Yeah, so, I would agree.
Interesting enough, a lot of people are complaining. Why does the president have so much power? Why is he allowed to dictate tariffs and yada yada? And ironically, it's within the U.S. Constitution, and it fell under the powers of Congress, who decided that they move so slow they need to give those powers to the president so he can rightfully adjust tariffs as needed. Right. In real time. And that's exactly what Trump is doing. Now, Trump is doing two stages here. He's got two purposes. He's got the purpose for restructuring the economy. That's one. And the other one is for policy, to get these countries on board to stop the organized crime and the terrorists coming into this country from our southern border and our northern border. He wants them to get involved. It's one thing for us to protect our borders, but it helps a lot if they do their part too.
Bingo. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So the original tariffs on Mexico and Canada weren't about the trade. It was about fentanyl. That was the reason for it.
Yeah.
And so that's what started. But then other tariffs came because the Canadians acted like fools, and Mexico tried to do the same thing. Didn't last very long for Mexico. They came right back to the table.
So, Todd, we got to give you a chance to jump in here.
I've seen people on social media and actually some people on the news conflate tariffs with treaties, and it's like there's two different things here, and people got to understand. Yes, you go to the Senate whenever you talk about treaties, but tariffs, that's a completely separate thing that should be held. The power should be held with the executive. That's the way I look at it.
Well, if we have a bilateral treaty with a country for tariffs, then that would have to go to the Senate because it's a treaty. Yep. That's a problem with the Paris Climate Accord. It's a treaty. And Obama tried to claim it wasn't a treaty. It's a treaty. It's a signatory. You are ceding sovereignty to a foreign body, which requires a treaty in order to do that. And that's why it has no weight of law. So when Trump abrogated the Paris Climate Accord in his first term and all these, he can't do that. Have to wait 2 years. No, what are you talking about? It was never ratified by the Senate. It's just like START 2. It has no value whatsoever. So anyway, these people just don't know our own Constitution. It's really disheartening.
Yep, absolutely. And the START stands for the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, I believe. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep, you got it correct.
Good deal. John, where are we at?
Oh, technology just kicking my butt, man.
Well,
I
at least
can't.
it's not the flu this week.
Yeah,
It's not the flu this week. I
That's
still
true,
got a
the
bit of a
COVID.
cough.
That's true.
We're back on that. Let's get on to Duffel tacos
right.
and COVID-19, and let's not mix them together.
right.
No, I'll tell you, man. I built up the show, and YouTube doesn't show up, and I put it both on Facebook and YouTube when I build up the show. And it's nowhere to be seen on Facebook except for the Common Sense Conservatives page, but on the TIBM page, it's nowhere to be seen there. Then it pops up on YouTube. Go figure. You just can't. You can't do anything with technology. I'm telling you, man.
Anyways, people just don't know our own.
Yep.
What was
That was you, Todd.
That was me.
Yeah,
That was me.
Oh, okay.
I'm on my phone. I wanted to make sure that everything was up, and I didn't mute my
Yeah,
mic.
I'm glad you didn't pull up the show of swears and curses.
It was our show. It was our show. I'm making sure that it's on all social media, and I forgot. to hit mute.
See, that's why I was talking about this because I'm communicating with the wife back and forth because she couldn't find it and she shares it out and it was just a mess. But so it's kind of weird when you're trying to open a show and you're trying to communicate and do all this stuff. It's craziness, stuff people really don't need to hear here, but talking about it anyway. So what else we got going on here? I had a couple notes written down. You hear about this district judge, McFadden ruled that it was unconstitutional for Trump administration to punish the AP because it refused to change its style guidance for the Gulf of Mexico, which President Trump renamed the Gulf of America. So now I guess they've got to let the Associated Press into the press pool.
No, they don't. They can let them sit in an out room with a television and monitor and sit there.
So they're part of it, but they're not.
Exactly. That's what I would do. I'd set up an antechamber and I let the clowns sit out there with a TV.
Well, do you feel like that? Do you feel like they were kind of just because they refused to call it the Gulf of America and they kicked them out? Do you think that's kind of still a violation of the First Amendment?
No,
Nope.
they're not being denied the right to speak and express themselves. That would be the First Amendment. They're not guaranteed access.
But
to
they're not
anything.
engaging in journalism if they're not allowed to.
They're not entitled to ask public officials questions. They're not entitled to be present in a government building. They're not entitled to anything. The government cannot
Right.
keep them from speaking their mind or reporting on something. There's a big difference here. People have conflated access with liberties. They're not the same thing.
Yep. And the White House press briefing room, and that's a new thing from the Nixon time frame. That
Right.
They used to be across the street in the Eisenhower building or outside of the compound altogether. That's a courtesy that they allow them to be there so they don't have to bring all their cameras and all their stuff in daily to get swept by Secret Service, which would take forever. That's a courtesy to allow them to have that particular room. They could repurpose it if they wanted to. The president could, just snapping a finger.
Yeah, this is intrusion into executive power. This is overreach of the court. This judge should be impeached forthwith. Case closed.
Done.
Oh, that's a quick case.
Absolutely.
That's right. Well, it's a good thing I don't have a summary judgment authority because he'd be out on his ear.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I've seen some of those arguments, with the press and the White House press office and the communications folks behind the scenes, and especially doing trips around the country and around the world, in motorcades with some of these press members, they'll complain about everything under the sun. They're seating in the White House press briefing room, and you have a good press secretary, assistant secretary will tell them you're not entitled to anything in there. It's a courtesy that you're allowed into the building. That's a courtesy, period. And they have to shut up at that point.
And in fact, we spoil these journalists. I mean, I've seen this with journalists come on junkets. They get to fly in government planes at no cost. They get access to things that no one else gets access to, and they feel special, and they're not. They're there to report. And instead, what they do is opinionate. They don't report, they opinionate. Now, the whole excuse was the Gulf of America. But again, I would be calling it the Gulf of the Americas, but that's just me. But the Gulf of America. But the real story is the AP was spewing propaganda, and that's why they didn't want them there anymore. So they wanted to teach them a lesson. But the whole thing. Remember when she said that? Oh, here's the address. Everybody can sign up. Non-traditional journalists are welcome here. I sent that email within 60 seconds of her saying that, and I got a response back saying they got it and they'll contact me. That was what, January?
Yeah.
I haven't heard from anybody. That was a scam to put their friends from One America News in there and Newsmax and Breitbart, so they could get in there and then have
Right.
this. If they just let them in, they get a lot of grief. Look, they're bringing in right wing racists. But since they said we opened up the non-traditional journal, so that one little 19-year-old with perky breasts, with a tight dress, she gets to stand in the back. Some YouTuber doesn't get asked any questions, and these guys get in the front row, which is what they wanted. I mean, the whole thing is a scam. Look, I mean, I said I'd hold the Trump administration accountable. I'm holding accountable. That's a scam. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And even though I do have friends who are actually working the press office, I would agree with you on that one as well.
Yeah, it's a scam, man. Look, I mean, that I'm not targeting anybody. I didn't say anything about anybody in particular. I'm just saying this was just a smokescreen so they can get the people they want in the room, and that's not right. They shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
They should have had the nads to say, look, we want these press agencies in here, and we're going to let them in. It's our press room. That's what they should have done. But they tried to play this little, we're going to open it up to the non-traditional media. Never heard from them once.
Absolutely. We got Erica tuning in from Perth, Australia. How you doing, Erica, down under? Glad you're tuning in.
That's quite a ways away.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other side of the globe.
Well, indeed. It's 7:21 in the morning in Perth, Australia, on the west coast of Australia.
Wow.
That's a big destination for expatriate South Africans. They've got a lot of them living there.
Yeah, I've only been to the East Coast, New South Wales, Sydney. That's about my exploration of Australia.
I've only been to the airport in Sydney. That's it. I looked out longingly out the glass at Australia and then got on a plane and flew into Yeah.
I want it.
Let me out. Let me out. Yeah, they got these big glass windows. You probably saw that at the airport. I mean, huge. I mean, like 60 feet high, and you can look out.
I landed on a C-17 and
okay, you didn't see that then.
Early in the morning with a bunch of limos for the vice president in the back, and we went straight to the hotel. That's about it. I didn't see the airport.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yikes.
But good times there, I can tell you. Sydney's beautiful, even just to walk. It's a very walkable city. I had no problem going to most neighborhoods there, just walking around. So yeah, low crime as far as I know. But I had no problem walking around there a few years ago.
It's a shame it's wasted on leftists.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with you on that one for sure. All that beauty.
Indeed.
Yeah. John,
They got a C-17, man. Would you take your own limos or?
Yeah, everywhere the president, vice president goes, they take the limos with them. Yeah,
there are seven.
Wait a minute, they got a C-17 lands out there, so Air
takes,
Force One goes flying somewhere. They got a C-17 goes too.
It takes seven. It takes 7 C-17s to move the president minimum.
Yeah, the vice president's usually generally one, and they'll have one that comes the day before he arrives. Generally, if overseas, they'll arrive like a week prior because that's the bulk of your advance team arriving. So yeah,
right. And the C-17s take things like the limos, and there's multiple limos, and you've got the distractionary one. You've also got the helicopters in there. Those Marine helicopters have to go back and they don't fly them across the Atlantic.
Oh God, yeah. For president, for the POTUS, they see C-5, C-17s. Helicopters go with everywhere he goes. Yeah,
you got everything in there. I mean, didn't you watch Executive Decision, man?
No.
The greatest movie of all time.
That's not the one. No, it's not. Yeah, that's because they killed off.
Seagal.
No, but I'm thinking of the wrong movie. What's Executive Decision? It was Air Force One.
Air Force One. Get off my plane.
Yeah. Did you watch Air Force One, man? That was awesome.
Actually, I think I may have.
Yeah.
That's one. Yeah, the escape pod, but he sent it out without him.
Gary Oldman played the separatist, Russian.
Yeah. He's a hell of an actor, Gary Oldman. Man.
Oh, quite a range. He did a great job of Dracula back in the day when he was very young.
That's true, yeah. And then he played Sir Winston Churchill a couple times there, very well.
Yeah, very talented.
Yep.
But look, the tariffs thing is. I see. I don't know if you agree with me after I shared my thoughts, but we have a different view on it. But to me, Trump is clever like a fox here, and this was the plan all along. So he kept tariffs on, so we're going to get money. And the anger is going to tamper down a bit, and they're going to come to the table and kiss the ring. The only problem I have with Trump in this whole situation is he was recorded on camera. There were some Republican events saying they all came and kissed my backside. And that was not cool. That was at
the NRCC thing last night. I believe it was.
That doesn't help. That doesn't help anything.
That does not. No.
Supposedly, Trump made a claim that he's seen things going with the stock market, and he had a lot of people talk to him about it. So he decided he'd back off a little bit and give him some breathing room on it. I don't know if that's entirely true or not. I did like your take on it because that does sound like a typical Trump move.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
And I believe that to be true. Maybe he just kind of played it down a little bit when he said what he said, or if he actually said it that way, I'm not sure. You can only take it with a grain of salt when you're reading stuff out of the media.
Yeah, I think another part of it is to try to pull some of those nations away from China and bring them into our orbit. more often. I believe that's probably what we're looking at here.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things
Yeah.
here. I mean, number one, we're trying to get a trade imbalance straight. We're also trying to get reciprocity. I mean, for instance, and I keep picking on South. Well, I can pick on Europe instead. Europe charges 10% for every car we ship over there. Plus, they all have value-added tax, which makes the car about 35% more expensive than it would be here. We charge 2.5% duty, and many states have no sales tax. So, wow, what a huge advantage they get shipping their BMWs and Mercedes and Renaults over here, vice us trying to ship Cadillacs or Jeeps or Chryslers over there. There aren't a lot of American cars on the roads in Europe, but it's not because they're not popular. I mean, I remember Austrians had paid a fortune for Chrysler minivans back in the 80s just because they loved them. But they were outrageously high because of the tariffs. Now, they weren't part of the European Union then. That was an independent country, but they had high tariffs. So, look, reciprocity, bringing back the industrial base, that's all part of it. But also getting some coin, too. Getting some coin off these tariffs, that's not a small thing to sniff at. I mean, the more money we get off of tariffs, the less money we need from income taxes.
Exactly. And that's
Good
why
call.
I've always supported tariffs, because that was a traditional way to tax, and it worked very, very well and made our country very wealthy without overburdening the American people. Now, what I think is really interesting, I can't tell you the number of times I've heard Trump say, and we're going to burn coal, good, clean coal, or we're going to bring back our steel manufacturing because we need to manufacture steel. And how many times you guys hear that? You've heard that quite a few times from
A
him,
lot.
right?
Not since the election, but a lot during the election.
Through the years.
Yeah.
And now China decided they're going to retaliate with 84% tariff rates on us. It's like, oh, good. So we're going to keep our coal here now, are we?
Well, I mean, we can keep the coal here, and then they won't be able to run their power plants.
Exactly. They can't win, dude.
Cut your nose off, spite your face. Look, I mean, people like Trump is, he's making a mistake here. No, he's not making a mistake. Let's be quite clear about this. For every dollar that we send to China, they send $4 this way. 80% of the trade comes this way. So who's going to be hurt by us not trading things? The Chinese. And their economy is already in a lot of trouble. They already have too much cash. They're sitting on so many treasury bills and notes and bonds. They tried to get rid of a bunch of those a couple years ago. They've got some real issues there, and they're gonna blink first. Trump wants to play chicken. I'm all for it. Listen, I mean, people that weren't paying attention, this is on you. I paid attention. I knew Trump was going to raise the tariffs. He talked about it. So in November, after he won, I waited till he won to make sure I was correct. I bought my laptop. Now laptops are going to be expensive, but I got mine already. Yeah, and I had someone come out and say, hey, well, antibiotics are going to get triple the price because we don't make them anymore. Fair point. But I picked up all my antibiotics before Trump announced his tariffs.
This is the problem that we have, is everybody keeps jumping to these conclusions.
Correct.
We don't have to charge tariffs on everything that comes in the country. We like our coffee. Everybody loves our coffee. Like 90% of our coffee comes from South America. Those are items we can say, you know what, we'll keep that down 2% because the American people enjoy that. And we don't want to do that to them. We don't want to make it inexpensive for them to drink coffee. Medicines are the same way. We can turn around and say, no, we'll cut tariffs down on medicines because we need the medicines. So it benefits that country, but it also benefits us. So we can do it for our own favor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand that. Just think everything goes up. They think that everything gets tariffed, and that's not entirely true.
But
well, it's also a question of three different things can happen with the tariff. Number one, if it's not too high, now 125%, you can't get around that. But if it's a 5 or 10 or even 15 or 20%, depending on your margins, you're not going to get this in agriculture, but you could get it in software or computer microprocessors. But depending on your margins, the producer might eat that tariff just to not lose market share. Because if you get pushed out of a market or people don't buy your stuff for a while, they get out of the habit of buying it. So you might eat that. Now, a lot of producers can't afford it because they don't have the margins. So what they might do is eat half of it and then push the rest of the cost, half of it on the consumer. So it mitigates the tariff on the consumer. And then the other way is the consumer just picks the whole price up. You got to pay it, or the middleman eats the cost. But the bottom line is that everyone's like, this is going to cost consumers more money. Not necessarily. Yes, in many cases it will, but it doesn't mean it's not guaranteed. And as you said, John, it's not on everything.
Right.
Yeah, so basically it's been estimated that the consumer is probably going to be about 20% of the tariffs. So whatever the tariffs go up to, if it's running at 20%, you're probably going to pay 5% increase. Where businesses and stuff will absorb the cost in other ways because they have to. And we have seen a lot of these businesses, because of the outsources and the cheap tariffs, they've been making some record profits. It's not that they can't afford to take a little bit of hit too.
Well, yeah, a lot have, but a lot of businesses are suffering. Even at good times, businesses don't make it.
So some are, I mean, look at trucking. You're talking about a 2% profit margin or something. It's very, very low. And if you're not making it in volumes, you're not going to make it.
If your margins are 2%, it only takes one hiccup to cause your business go out of business. You just need one thing, like the government regulating that you've got to put some modifier on all your semis. It costs you $2,000 per truck. Either borrow the money and pay for it for your 400 truck fleet, or you go under.
And they've been doing it. The EPA has been killing us.
Exactly.
With the DEF systems, a lot of folks out there driving pickup trucks with diesel motors now have to run those DEF systems. I knew a guy, he had a truck. It cost him $40,000 in repairs just on the DEF system alone because they couldn't seem to fix it. Now, I don't know if it was $40,000 to him or if it was under warranty and was just $40,000 worth of repairs. But if it falls on the trucking company, that's a huge hit. That's an enormous hit.
Yeah, multiply that by, a dozen, 100 trucks. That's going to eat you alive. Imagine if it was done to the fleet for UPS or FedEx. Jeez, that's a huge capital outlay.
Yeah. So the regulations are just Trump's right. Regulatory agencies are terrible. They don't mind turning the screws to you. You got things like the Unfunded Mandate Reforms Act, which is meant to restrict the ability of regulatory agencies for overburdened industry or other governments for the regulations. So if you exceed the threshold of, it used to be $100 million, I think, for the regulation, if it created a burden of that much or more, then they were supposed to find another means. And that may include financing you to follow that regulation. So when they put the ELD on the truck drivers, they created like a $6 billion industry. Never financed it, never offered any relief for the trucking industry. It was congressionally mandated, but they never told Congress, hey, we can't do this because it violates the Unfunded Mandate Reforms Act. They just did it anyway. But now the fishing industries, and this is where the DEFRON difference was checked by Supreme Court here last year, is they had the same sort of tracking devices in the fishing, they're fishing. And it was actually more of a cost than it was the trucking industry for the ELD. While they were funding it, they were subsidizing it for that regulation. The money ran out. They couldn't do it anymore, and they were going to try to stick it to the
fishermen.
Yeah, the fishing industry.
Right.
Well, they took them to court, and so then the court ruled that, first of all, the Chevron deference is unconstitutional. That the courts are supposed to determine law. You're not supposed to just have the regulatory agencies trying to interpret law on their own. And so everything kind of backfired on the regulatory agencies that way. But that's what they do. They don't mind overburdening the industries. Even when there's laws that are supposed to protect the industries, they do it anyway. They just do what they want to do. It's ridiculousness.
Well, it's absolutely the case. I mean, that's one of the biggest problems with these agencies is Congress has ceded its authority, not just the president, as you mentioned earlier, John, but also to these government agencies like the Environmental Protection Agency. These people have unbelievable powers, which they're just bureaucrats. No one elected them.
Right.
They get away with stuff that's unbelievable, and it needs to be reined in.
Absolutely. So you guys see this Trump plans $1,000 daily fine for illegals who don't leave after deportation orders.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you said that. I'm looking at some stuff here, and it says about 5,000 people, according to the CBP Home app, has self-deported thus far this past month, which is a good thing. It's a good start, I think. The self-deportation idea, I think is good. And of course, 5,000 people in a month is a drop in the bucket, but it's a step in the right direction.
It's a start.
Yeah.
Well, here again, leverage point, right? You create a fine so that people look at it and go, well, if I get caught, I don't leave. And then how am I, I'm working for the government, I'm not making any money. So they got to go.
Bingo. Good call.
Yeah, I think so. That's the sort of things that you can expect, I guess. When you're trying to get things done and people won't cooperate, you got to find a leverage point somewhere. I'd rather they be finding them than me.
Did you see, John, the acting director of the Internal Revenue Service and several senior IRS officials resigned over turning over data to Doge?
No, what happened?
Yeah, the acting commissioner of Internal Revenue Service, Melanie Krause, is reportedly resigning following a new agreement between the Treasury and Homeland Security Departments to share tax data of undocumented immigrants. They're not undocumented immigrants. They're criminal alien evaders. So why does the IRS have data records on criminal alien evaders, and why didn't they turn their names over to Customs Immigration when they became aware of it? So they've got a whole bunch of these criminal alien invaders, and they are turning the data over now. So she didn't like that, so she resigned. She's the acting director.
Oh, wow. So he's weeding out his DEI agents. He's getting rid of them simply because they don't like what he's doing. That's sort of like self-deporting in a way.
Right. And there was a general, was it a general or admiral in NATO that was basically recently
Yeah,
fired?
she was sacked too. And then the Washington Post carries it a disproportionate number of women. Nine
Yeah,
senior
right.
officers have been sacked. 5 were men, 4 were women. How's that disproportionate? I know what they're going to say. Yes, why? But only 12% of the force is women. Well, maybe they should do a little better.
Yeah, and if we're looking at population wise, you should look at it that way, not the force, but the population. So therefore,
Exactly.
the men are overrepresented in this situation. So there we go.
Yeah, there you go.
That's not uncommon. Like trucking is about 15% tops of women. It just is what it is. It's a lot of, not every woman wants to be in a male profession, a male dominated profession. Some do, and others, they prefer different trades.
Sure. We have different likes, dislikes. Of course, the socialization process, the way we're born, raised, and stuff like that. We're geared toward different things. All males aren't going to want to be truck drivers or go into construction. There's different things for us. And I think that plays into male, female, the professions that we want to go into. I think it has to do with just the way we're raised, the way we're genetically made up. I believe.
Well, all I need to know, I learned from Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about. Oh yeah.
Boys have something, girls have something else.
Girls have a China. That's what he said, right? A China.
Something like that. Yeah. No, that's so precious. What a great line, man. That's if you're confused, listen to the 5-year-old.
What is your daddy's name and who does he work for? I love it.
I did not see that movie.
Another one is great is Twins.
It is not the tumor. It's not the tumor.
Another great movie. Tumor. Yeah, another great movie is Twins too. I love that one.
I didn't care for that so much.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah.
Get
Danny DeVito. You mess with me, you mess with the whole family.
No, I didn't care for that one. But Kindergarten Cop, that was a classic, man. I've got a headache. He's got a tumor. It's not a tumor. Schwarzenegger. Anyway, yeah. So, boy, I tell you, I'm fixated on these tariffs. But I don't know about. Did you guys get your taxes done? I finally got there.
Not yet. I have them sitting next to me right here, right now. I was going to do them today, but I'll probably do them either over the weekend. I got to be in Western Tennessee and Middle Tennessee. I'll have some downtime. I'll do it then.
Yeah, I went through it, and I love how, because I use online TurboTax, like it only took an hour and 54 minutes. No, that's how long I entered the data. It took me days to accumulate all the information because half these banks and mutual funds don't even bother to send you 1099s anymore. That's not even legal.
Yeah,
I got half of them. I had to go online and here's a dual factor authentication and tell us your favorite color and your first experience when you kissed a tree or a girl. What are you talking about here, man? Crazy stuff. And finally get into the site and like, no, it's not that account. I mean, where's it at? Crazy stuff. Thankfully, they keep the previous years online. Plus, I have the PDF. So I was looking to say, okay, yep. Okay, I have those. I didn't miss anything. Yeah, but I was concerned I was going to have to pay this year, but I managed to eke out a small return. That's nice.
Good deal.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember the days when banks used to send you all your canceled checks and statements.
Ah, wow, yeah.
Remember that? You used to get
I remember when they gave you a toaster, man.
a toaster? Wow, just for signing up, huh?
Yeah, you used to get a toaster. You sign a checking account to give you a toaster.
I do recall S&H green stamps, though.
Oh yeah, those are classic. Yeah.
Oh, S&H green stamps, man. We had so many of those books and books and books. They tried a digital version of that, and I actually messed around with it for years, and it disappeared too. But S&H green stamps were a big deal, man. Was it Sperry and Hutchison? I think was S&H.
I don't remember actually. I was asking somebody that what it stood for because I couldn't remember.
Yeah, so many billions of those stamps were issued. What a piece of Americana it's missing. Route 66, S&H green stamps, man.
Yeah. Wow. Publishers Clearinghouse, are they still around?
I don't know. They were a couple years ago, but yeah, Publishers Clearinghouse, Jerry Lewis Telethon.
Those memes going around that what was that about? Doge is investigating Publishers Clearinghouse. Now I'm going to owe a bunch of money.
Yeah, Sperry and Hutchinson. That's what it was. Around since 1896 to the early to mid 1980s, late 1980s.
See, wow. I got the memory, man. The hard drive's still functioning. That sector wasn't damaged in the most recent tackle playing rugby.
no buffering over there, right?
Not tonight, anyway. As sharp as a tack and twice as dull on top. I haven't heard that line in a long time. Wait a second. I said that about myself. That I didn't mean to say that.
Did not work. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, no, but yeah, Sperry and Hutchinson, man. Oh, this was amazing. I remember the Brady Bunch, that episode where they're collecting all the S&H green stamps, but they didn't call them S&H green stamps because there were competitors out there. But S&H was the best. It was the best. Yeah.
I was in Cracker Barrel not too long ago, and I saw an Atari game. It was like the
Oh.
old version of Atari, but it had like over 200 games into it for $130. I'm like, wow! And they're selling it for about the price it went for in 1980.
Asteroids. Oh, yeah, asteroids.
Asteroids.
Man. Don't forget that. And then Galaga, that was another one too.
Galaga.
Yeah.
That was a
Galaga.
fun game. I like the arcade game. It was fun.
Yeah, no, it's well, I mean, the other do you see the episode when Costanza gets the Frogger game and he's
Yeah.
trying to cross the street with it? It's like he's playing Frogger.
You mean the holes? Yeah. I love it. Where's the bathroom at? It has no it has nothing to do with anything. The guy's like, where's the bathroom at? Oh, I love it.
Yikes. The culture.
Great.
Time's gone by.
I mean, where you could make a show about nothing and just watch them over and over and over. You know, I've probably seen every episode at least several times each. You know what I'm saying? Just you keep watching it.
Now television is just full of shows that say nothing with actors that can't accomplish anything.
Yeah, but you watch TV
and overpaid too. Yeah.
Well, not really. Sometimes I put it on the background. So
I had somebody made a post about the old TV variety shows like Hee Haw and stuff, and want to know what people's favorite were. And I was like, "Are you really? Is it show you what miss? Because he's talking about missing them." And I'm like, "Do you really miss the show? I mean, you can pull it up on YouTube and watch full episodes."
Sure.
So is it that you missed the show, or you just missed the time period?
Some people were nostalgia. They were younger. They could move around. They could do stuff, and now they're older. They weigh more, and then of course their health's failing. So I guess nostalgia, for the days that they felt better. I don't know.
I don't know, man. You go back to 1970s, 1980s, and stuff, and the muscle cars and the mindset. People had a different mindset back in the day. Things were different. I mean, you were drinking Coca-Cola out of glass bottles, not plastic crap.
that's why I buy my Coca-Cola. Hey, Mexico, only from Mexico. Bottles, pure cane sugar, the good stuff, man. Mainline, that's the good stuff.
That is the good stuff, but now it's about $1 a bottle anymore or more.
Oh, it's 30. What the heck is it for
30
kids?
pack is $32 or something? Or
No, it's 35, 36 here.
Wow.
And instead of this high fructose corn syrup crap.
Yep, that's what I was going to say. That stuff will just kill you. But the cane sugar is a heck of a lot better for you. Although it's not good for you, but it's way better than that.
Well, it's fine. It's fine in proper consumptions, right? Like anything else.
Right.
In moderation.
If you had 1 or 2 cigarettes in your life, you probably wouldn't get cancer, right? But if you're going to drink or smoke 3 packs a day, well, good luck to you.
Right.
All things being equal, yes, it's not going to go well for you in the end. That's for sure.
Right. And it's funny, I don't mean to be funny.
Morose.
Morose. But think about it. People that complain that doctors don't know what they're doing, they can't do this and that. It's like, but you've ate horribly your whole life. You didn't exercise. You smoked. You sucked down soda after soda. No wonder you have so many health problems. It's not the doctors that can just fix you magically. I'm sorry. It doesn't work that way.
Well, that's why we need proper access to primary health care providers. Every 6 months, everyone should see their primary care physician. And hey, look, I told you 6 months ago, you better start putting a glove on that thing. It's the third time you come for an STI. It's going to fall off,
Yeah. 6 months. I thought it was 6 years. Oh, crap.
No, but I mean, look, that's the problem. We don't have enough GPs in this country. No country has enough GPs. But we should have enough GPs that every person in this country can go see their doctor twice a year, minimum. That's assuming, and then what you get is, your doctor will be like, okay, last time you hear you weigh 105, now you weigh 115. This is not good. Your heart rate's elevated, your cholesterol is rising. You need to change your lifestyle, change your diet, or change your exercise activity, or a combination of the two. But if you see that every 6 months, because we don't see the changes in ourselves, next thing you know, wait, where'd that come from? Where'd that tire come from around waist? Oh, where'd that dog come from, man? He looks happy.
Yeah, this is Sprout right here.
Hey, Sprout.
He's having hey, Sprout, say hi.
Sprout.
He's like, say hi, put me down. I want to run.
He can't hear me. You got the earphones on.
Yeah.
Good boy right there.
He's going to have a conversation with you too there.
Yeah. No, he's getting ready to go to boarding here in a little bit because going to be out of town. But it's not my dog, and a friend's dog. And she's bringing it over here. Carrie's bringing it over here to let me see him for a little while. He's a good
dog.
Boy.
Looks very happy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And he's quiet too. Good boy. Good boy, Sprout.
Clearly not a liberal dog there.
No, definitely not
because he's happy.
Yeah, you don't like that song? My dog's a Democrat.
Oh gosh. So Dave Rubin had a clip down the other day, and it's talking. They're talking about zombies, and the guy's like, "These people their eyes are dead. They do what they're told. They just go where they're told. They're automatons." And then Bob Hope says, without missing beat, You mean like Democrats?
Yeah, I love that skit. Yeah.
So, what do you guys think about Ken Paxton wants to run for U.S. Senate in Texas?
Why not?
Why not?
He's a great attorney general.
I think he'd be a great candidate for people in Texas if they can get the votes for him over the liberals, because they've had such a growth of liberals in Texas. It's incredible.
Oh,
yeah, and I think he should run for that seat. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, John Cornyn shouldn't be, be able to walk right back into it. It's enough of it. We need term limits. And, after a couple of terms in the Senate, 12 years, that's more than enough. I'm sorry. It's time to go ahead and ride out and go home.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. I'm not going to argue that for sure. Yeah, it's a little too much time there. But Cornyn has proved to be unreliable too. So,
yep, absolutely.
As far as the conservative base is concerned, we want reliable people.
Ken Paxton's been a good AG for Texas. I mean, he did a lot of investigative work on the voting and for voting fraud or cheating in elections and things like that. Really come down on people hard about that. He's been quite a force to be reckoned with. He doesn't back down. During the Biden administration, I don't know if you remember or not, but the Biden administration was full out attacking him, and he just absolutely did not back down. He went at it full bore on him.
Yep.
I think he was kind of behind it with Abbott on sending a lot of people out there to what was it? Paxton and Abbott that sent folks out there to Martha's Vineyard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he did. Yep. I think didn't the Biden administration or the DOJ bring him up on some charges toward the end of the administration? I think something like that.
They've had quite a few lawsuits they've had to deal with from the Biden
lawsuits
administration.
at least. Yeah, I don't know if they were charges or anything like that. I know he had some legal problems he had to work through, which were all nonsense and thrown out, I believe.
Yeah, I think Paxton's a beast. I really like him. I wish he lived in New Hampshire and could run an Senate race.
Just don't get Raffensperger there from Georgia. We can do without him.
Oh God, what a useless guy. Chris Sununu was looking at exploring to run for U.S. Senate, and he even had Trump's endorsement of all people. Trump's like, yeah, Chris is a great guy. I hope he runs, and he was endorsing him and everything. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Chris is just like, no, I don't think it's for me.
That's interesting. I mean, to think about it, I mean, the Sununus, I mean, they could pretty much walk into nearly any office in the state, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for decades now, right? His father and now him, right? Talk about nepotism.
Yeah.
Nepotism works, sadly.
Got a few folks here that really aren't fond of Chris Sununu. Was making connections to his brother with the World Economic Forum. He's like, okay, I don't know how that's a reflection on him, but maybe it runs in the family. I don't know.
Right. Well, the association's there for sure.
Yeah. But I don't know, man. I wasn't too big on it. I don't know if I was really looking for Chris Sununu to run or not run. Kind of up in the air on it. But right now we're stuck with Chris Pappas and a guy whose name I can't pronounce. I put their hats in the ring. A guy I never heard of before. Never held any office here in New Hampshire. And so I guess we're going to see. I even hear that Goodlander, who just won the U.S. House seat here in New Hampshire, the 2nd District, she's contemplating, from my understanding, a run in the U.S. Senate. I guess people much prefer to be senators. So better paying job, better office, bigger office. Some people think it's a higher position. I don't know if it's higher or not. But.
Right. Yeah. But they think just because they've spent a certain amount of time in one office, now that basically allows them to run for some other office because I have the quote unquote experience. It's like, yeah, you've had experience, hanging around a legislative body, but that's not necessarily the same as real life experience, owning a business, building a business, being out in the world, defending the country, things like that. You have very limited experience in the real world, and here you are legislating on the real world. I'm sorry. At some point, you got to go out there into the real world to have that experience. Not say my experience in the House or Senate is enough. I don't think so.
Or you just have to be very, very well connected with the Obama and Biden administrations through your husband, and that's where good.
Right there you go.
She's married to a man that's got a lot of high end connections. And,
and that's another thing. It's regardless if it's nepotism or it's just the who nonsense. It's good people need to get involved politically and come out and vote. I mean, we can't allow the establishment to decide who's going to be our candidates and at the same time who's going to serve in public office. Elect good people, for crying out loud.
Well, you gotta, somebody once asked, how are we going to stop corruption here in the United States? How are we going to stop corruption in our government? My answer to that is it starts with the party and it ends with the party. When you have corruption in your own party, you got problems.
Oh yeah.
We're seeing the left is breaking down because of it, and the right's not void of it. I hate to say that, but that's true. The right's not void of it. I've seen
Oh,
too
that-
many
but-
people that ran for office that were front runners that didn't win, and they were told they weren't going to win.
Yep, and we've got a lot of good people, in the state of Tennessee, for crying out loud. But we have a horrible voter turnout. We people that aren't involved in their local political party, and we have the same old people that can continue to get reelected to some of these seats. And those are the ones who generally decide behind the scenes who's going to be a candidate for office, or who's going to be supported one way or another. The tacit endorsement or the outright endorsement from some of these individuals. We don't need that. We need to get back to good people deciding who the candidates are going to be, but you have to show up and vote. And we don't do that enough in this country.
Well, we're not
No,
alone.
no.
It's just norm all over the world these days. People not showing up for elections.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, we had a local election back in March here, and only 14.3% of the total registered number of voters showed up. And we have 100 and some odd, thousand, 125, 130 some thousand registered voters, and only a handful showed up in March. It's sad.
Yeah, that's true. We had, I think, 17% turnout in the primary. It's nothing. It's nothing.
So Canada announced 25% tariffs on some U.S.-made cars.
Yes, that don't conform to the U.S. Mexico Canada trade agreement. So it's about 10%, about a little more 10%, about maybe 20. It's it's in place. They're going with it. So because
Awesome.
let's play tit for tat. We'll see who lasts longest, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Well, the thing of it is it's playing into Trump's hand once again. He wants industry here in the United States of America. We outsourced a lot to Canada for
Mhm.
manufacturing
And Mexico.
Yep.
Oh God, Mexico. It's been years, decades. We've been outsourcing down there, and it's ridiculousness. So I've seen a lot of posts on social media. They can scientifically engineer a dog that's been extinct for over 13,000 years, but they can't find a cure for cancer. Have you heard about this dog?
No, I haven't heard about this dog.
This Wolf Colossal Biosciences, the genetic engineering company working to bring back the woolly mammoth, has actually already brought back one of the extinct Ice Age cohabitants.
Are these little or not foxes, but
They're wolves. They were
wolves.
actually very, very large wolves. I guess they're the type that they used when they were that show Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Supposedly they're very, very large animals for the breed, and so they didn't. I mean, obviously they don't have a full blood dire wolf. They used female dogs or whatever of this today's age and used DNA out of remains that they found of these animals and managed to create some sort of form of that dog.
Interesting.
Well, it is because they're kind of like pulling back things from 13,000 years ago and coming to life today. That's kind of it's very Jurassic Park, I guess.
Right. Well, they got a new Jurassic Park movie coming out too, by the way.
Does it have dire wolves?
Well, no, but they have to go to the original island that was abandoned with all the dinosaurs that they couldn't take with them elsewhere. They're too dangerous to take elsewhere. So like they got to go back there to get something. I don't know the full premise of it. I saw the
T-Rexes and the Velociraptors and whatever made up dinosaurs they came up with during the course of the movie.
For the movie. Yeah, absolutely. Super T-Rexes.
Yeah, that was a great story. I got to admit,
Nature finds a way, right?
Production, that was a good story. Jeff Goldblum, Nature always finds a way. Yeah,
Nature finds a way. Yep. Good movies, good series, fun times.
But he had a good point. I mean, that was a good line because there was kind of a good point on that. Things do tend to work themselves out in life one way or another, and sometimes unexpectedly. So it's kind of reality.
That's a fair point.
All right. What else we got going on here in today's world?
It's universities. Ivy League universities have their funding cut off for their anti-Semitism. Nearly $1 billion cut off for Cornell. That's $790 million, and then the rest was cut off for Western University, Northwestern. So wow, both were put on the federal government's radar for having woke anti-Israel protesters flooding their campuses and doing nothing to protect Jews.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, I did see that. That's Well, tell me, as somebody with some backbone and real leadership skills, and Chris, you've been burning the candle at both ends.
I have.
You look like you've been burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah, no.
I'm usually the guy doing that.
I probably should drop off in the second hour tonight. I'm not sure I'm adding to the program tonight.
Well, if you need to, it's not a big deal. We'll hold it, but yeah, because you've carried this program enough. I think it's time for you to get some rest, and that way next week you'll
Yeah.
be squared away, ready to go.
All he needs
Why
is a
not?
stronger cup of coffee, Todd. I'm telling you,
No.
that's all he needs.
He just slurped down a full soda there, and it's not doing it
That's
for him.
no effect.
Nobody drinks Coke for energy.
I'm inured to caffeine. You know, one of those people that can have caffeine and drink it, and nothing happens, or eat chocolate. And I mean, if I want, I could lay down and fall asleep 5 minutes later. Just kind of how it goes.
Yeah. I've had energy drinks, and a few minutes later, I fall asleep. That's good.
Yeah, there you go.
I've done that. I've taken a 5-hour energy. I was so tired. This is, serving, say, in a rock or somewhere. Take a 5-hour energy, and you think you're going to be up for a little bit longer. Next thing you know, like, all right, we scrapped the mission. So you got to go to sleep. So it's like, I pass right out sometimes.
No, last night, some of my viewers, I was actually fine last night, quite chipper because I'm doing 11:30 at night broadcast. And they're like, go get some rest. And I'm like, you just don't understand. I mean, I used to do 96 hours with 2 or 3 15-minute cat naps here and there, and they're like, how did you do that? I said, well, I had the assistance of Lieutenant Hologram. Whenever I wasn't available, I put Lieutenant Hologram out there. So.
Lieutenant Hologram?
Yeah. There's no, he's Lieutenant Vaporware. There's no one there. No, because every time they need him, I turn around. And I was like, there's Wyatt, Yeah. It's like, where's Waldo? So no, I just, it's, but then I completed the story saying I'm also not 25 or 30 anymore too. So, you got to accept that.
Yeah. Some of our intel guys, like say in Iraq or Afghanistan, watching those guys work in those cells sometimes, man.
Demons.
And it's round the clock. Some of these guys, and they do a hell of a job coming up with target things like that. Whatever they're doing, I mean, really, really great at it. Professional.
It comes down to conditioning, and you get a lot of guys high profile, like Trump. Trump doesn't sleep 8-9 hours a day.
I don't.
He might do a 4-hour block sleep or something, and he'll be on a ride or something on Air Force One and catch up on some sleep, or in the limo he might nod off for a couple of minutes. You know what I mean? And you get these what we used to call power naps.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like a form of polyphasic sleep patterns. If you're familiar with those.
What'd
you come here? What communist? What
polyphasic?
Polyphasic. So you got monophasic sleep patterns, and that's your like 9-hour block sleep that they say you should be getting, and nobody does. Everybody gets disruptions during the night and stuff. Sure. Nobody's actually sleeping. But before the Industrial Revolution, we had what's called biphasic sleep patterns, where people would sleep say 3 to 4 hours during the day and 3 to 4 hours during the night, and that's how people they function that way. I don't know why, but they did. And they functioned quite well. And a lot of people today can function on biphasic sleep patterns very well. I would say like a 4-hour block sleep with a 2-hour sleep during the daytime or something would be what I would do as far as biphasic sleep pattern goes. And then you got triphasic, which I don't get into. And polyphasic would be a multitude of ways you get your rest. A lot of people like to base it on a 2-hour block sleep, which I think is ridiculous. Well, I find a 4-hour block sleep was really good, and I go 20 hours on a 4-hour block sleep, or I might take 30-minute naps during the day, depending 1 or 2. I do real well on it.
Yeah, we got Dr. Sleep over here.
And where does the Triassic phase come in?
Triphasic?
Triassic.
I don't know. Is that a reference to
no, that's a there's
it's an epoch. That's an epoch of time.
Epoch, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Epoch of time. Yeah.
Triassic,
well,
Jurassic,
you want to sleep for that long? I mean,
wow. Not that long.
That's a long time.
Yeah,
more than
I'm not sure what
Rip
epoch is, but I think it's a major amount of time. Is it not?
I don't know. But at the end of the story, folks, we're all just stardust.
That's it.
Well, right? I like the thing about what dinosaurs ate millions of years ago that became poo could be the molecular structure, or the atoms of that could be part of what you are today.
No, well, that's what I'm burning in my car.
That's what you're burning in your car.
to include his battery powered electric car, because it's got to be right. Fossil fuels come into it one way or another sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah, the greenies lose it. By the way, they say that 41% of all electricity generated around the globe 2024 was from alternative energy sources.
Well, there you go. On that note, these happy notes, ladies and gentlemen, we hit the top of the hour, so we're going to take the top of the hour of the break. Allow you a chance to catch some news, catch up on things, and we'll come back and start this next hour.
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. On the same day reciprocal tariffs went into effect, President Trump issuing a pause except for China on those reciprocal tariffs. ABC's Whit Johnson says markets rallied today, but a trade war still looms.
There's still some uncertainty about the end game here. This is a 90-day pause just on those reciprocal tariffs. We still have the 10% baseline tariffs. We're still talking about big tariffs on cars and car parts. And then, of course, China is the massive X factor here. You know, we slapped them with 104% tariffs. Now it's up to 125. They hit the United States with those reciprocal tariffs because of the retaliation there. So there's still a lot of questions about what's going to happen next.
The House expected to vote on the Republican budget blueprint resolution tonight, but House Speaker Mike Johnson may not have enough Republican support. He can only afford to lose 3 votes. Flooding remains a threat in parts of the South and Midwest after this week's storms. This is ABC News. More than a dozen new sounds are being added to the National Recording Registry at the Library of Congress to preserve the work of artists and their music and much more.
New entries to the National Recording Registry range from Elton John's 1973 album Goodbye Yellow Brick Road to Celine Dion's Titanic hit My Heart Will Go On. But it's not all music. Chuck Thompson's broadcast of Game 7 of the 1960 World Series, and even Microsoft's Windows 95 startup sound, all now a part of the Library of Congress. Mike Dubusky, ABC News.
Uber is out with its latest lost and found index. The top 3 commonly left behind items were phones, keys, and wallets. The most forgetful city, also the most busiest, according to the ride-sharing app, is New York City. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative to aid delinquent taxpayers. This initiative was established for anyone facing financial hardship and unable to pay their back taxes. Qualifying and enrolling in this program will stop all collections, settle your delinquent tax problem, and even reduce what you owe by thousands of dollars. Call the hotline at People's Tax Relief to see if you qualify and get this free information by dialing 800-810-3588. If you have unfiled tax returns or cannot afford to pay your personal or business back taxes, you can now get the help you need. One simple phone call can resolve your tax problem and save you thousands of dollars. To see if you qualify and to get this important free information, call 800-810-3588. 800-810-3588. 800-810-3588.
Join the Campers Inn family and save. For a limited time, get exclusive family pricing with up to 40% off select RVs. No hidden fees, just honest savings, and you'll pay what we pay for freight and prep. Looking to upgrade? Trade up and get an extra $1,000 for your RV. Enjoy exclusive parts discounts and free educational seminars to help you make the most of your RV. These VIP savings won't last. Visit Campers Inn RV today.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago. Servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work or restorative services, each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument, memorials of distinction for people who care.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just now tuning in, you're listening to the Common Sense Conservatives right here, WSMN 1590, WSM 95.3 on your FM dial. Chris Wyatt did take us up on that offer to cut out for a little bit here, so I guess he took us to El Dafo's Tacos and
Yes,
went
he
home
did.
with.
Yes, he did, and that's good. Yeah, he's on the air. I mean, how many hours a day? How many hours?
Yeah,
Yeah. How many hours a week does he do shows and, informs people on this and that, keeps everybody apprised of the real facts behind the scenes versus, what you're going to get on, say, social media or any other show, if you will, on mainstream, Fox News, CNN, whatever. You're going to get spin nonsense, and it's from the same people that they have all the time. It's never anybody who's been out in the real world for the most part and does things on a regular basis. So, he can take a nap if he wants to. He's earned it, I think.
Yeah, I guess he has.
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember whenever I used to do a podcast, but mine was just every so often I would interview somebody, and that was my style podcast, was just interviewing officials and different people. Unlike what he does, he gets in there and breaks it down in depth stuff. I never really did that. I did actually two different podcasts. Another was more of a Todd Talks where I would just talk about random things that were on my mind, but they were planned videos that I would do for about 5, 10, 15-minute videos. And, even those take a little bit of time, but somebody that's just going to sit there on air, for lack of a better word, for so many hours a day, that could take a toll on you.
He shoots off the cuff. When he does his stuff, he just knows what he's talking about. He's very good that way. Yeah, I'm like you. I got to do a lot of planning, and I'd rather just do pre-recorded stuff, and I don't because it's so time consuming. I got so much other things that I'm doing, and just
right. Yeah, to commit to that amount of time to sit there and be live every day or every night or whatever. We do this once a week, 7 to 9 Eastern, which to me that's fine. We're having a general discussion. We don't have anything that we have to keep the audience tune in next week to figure out what we're going to finish up that topic. It's nothing like that. Free flowing discussion. I kind of like that. So it's kind of like we talked about Seinfeld in the first hour. You can jump in and watch Seinfeld from the season 3 onward, or watch them in any order, and you're not going to generally be lost. I think with our group here, with what we talk about, free flowing discussion, you're not going to be lost if you watch our show or listen to our show, and you missed a couple of weeks. It's nothing you're going to have to worry about. It's free flowing discussion about whatever's going on in society at that particular moment.
Well, if you weren't here last week, you'd be wondering where you're going to get your Adolfo's tacos and how all that works. But
right.
That's why you got to pay attention sometimes.
Right. Well, so we got a question here about, it says, what is the threshold for the president to transfer weapons before Congress needs to have approval? Generally, I think if it's under a certain treaty, he wouldn't have to have any approval. Of course, that would already have gotten approval from the Senate with regards to a treaty. Anything else as far as selling arms to other countries, if it's under a specific treaty or program that we have, he doesn't need any approval because it's already been approved. It's already been legislated. But if it's something new, yeah, he would have to seek a Senate approval, I imagine, probably House approval too, because you have to procure. So then, and of course, all spending bills come from the House, so therefore you probably have to involve the House as well. I hope I gave the right answer on that one.
Do you not remember the Nicaragua conflict?
Oh, I do.
I don't recall.
Did I get them all? Yes. To quote Colonel Ollie North, he's like, in the early days of emails, he's like, well, you left a couple on a server. He's like, well, I guess I didn't get them all then.
No, I'm talking about the gun trades.
Iran Contra. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was Ollie North. He was very, very much involved in that. And whenever he was being, I think he was in front of the Senate, and they were asking him questions talking about his emails. And of course, in those days, it was very limited as far as emails. Everybody in government didn't have some. It was more locally to the White House or NSC, and maybe involved the Pentagon. And it was easy for him to be able to have access to the servers because they probably had them in their office, and he deleted a lot of the emails. But the Senate investigators were able to find some of them that basically, led to Ollie North being found guilty for sure. But he said right there in the middle of the Senate, he's like, he talked about his emails. He's like, well, if someone was on the server, he's like, did I get them all? Because he was admitting to erasing them. And he's like, no, sir, we found these, and these. He's like, well, I guess I didn't get them all. Guess you got me, basically.
Man with a little bit of backbone, he's not going to play that stupid game,
Right. Yeah. Not saying, oh, I didn't do it. He's like, yeah, I did it. Yeah. And, of course, they didn't have the Records Keeping Act like they do now that covered email in those days. So it was a new thing. So, of course, they've had to amend the Records Keeping Act since then with new technology. Of course, whenever text messaging came around, you had to amend that to be able to include that. So if you're talking about records keeping, you're talking about text messages, emails, and not just documents that you produce from one office to the next. Now, so much that goes into those particular pieces of legislation.
So, you hear about these 3 guys that tried to participate in a coup in the Congo?
No, tell me more.
Well, I came across it here a little bit ago. There are 3 of them were arrested for their roles in a foiled attempt to overthrow the DRC's president, Felix Antoine. Don't hold me to this name, man. I can't pronounce it. 37 people in all were sentenced due to that coup attempt, allegedly led by Malanga's father, Christian, a U.S. national of Congolese origin, who was reported leader of the failed plot. Christian Malanga was killed during the attack along with 5 others. So apparently 3 U.S. citizens were involved in this plot to overthrow this leader in the Congo, and they were sentenced to death originally. And I guess I'm not sure who got involved. United States, let's see, the 3 Americans will serve life sentence in the United States after their death sentence was commuted by the Democratic Republic of Congo shortly after the United States and DRC held talks over minerals. So
Okay.
It's kind of interesting little tidbit piece of news. Do you no good, but that actually happened. Apparently some Americans decided to interfere in other people's elections or affairs, and it definitely wasn't an election if they were trying to kill the guy.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And that was something that the U.S. does on a regular basis.
For clarity, not the United States of America, but some U.S. citizens. Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
Don't want people out there thinking that we're the type of people who think the United States would be involved in overthrowing other people's governments. But
of course not. You would never want that. No.
And people out there on the left can hear us and go, "You know what the Republicans are saying out there?"
No, we definitely don't condone it, but the U.S. does it, and it's Republican administrations and Democratic administrations have done it for decades. I mean, that's what we do.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this gentleman was asking you that question, or asking in general that question about the guns and stuff, because Obama started moving small arms before the congressional approval for Gulf states.
Right.
Yeah, that reminds me. I mean, your mind goes right back to Fast and Furious. Where they tried that little sting operation on the I swear they did. That was the cover-up part of it, was the sting operation. They just basically wanted to give the cartels a bunch of guns, and I don't know. I got a bit of a conspiracy mind there anyway. And
oh, absolutely. But
when it comes to Obama,
oh yeah. But the way they handled that was completely bungled, and then it didn't accept any of the responsibility of any of the fallout. They'd accepted none of it. It's like, you did the program. We know you did it. There's records that say you did it, and Americans were killed. You have actually Border Patrol agents that were actually killed, right?
The guns were being used against our
right.
police officers or enforcement agencies. Yeah,
right.
And,
so this idea that they were going to track the guns, it's like the cartels caught wise quickly, and any GPS trackers were thrown off. And of course, these were used in multiple crimes. And I think to this day, occasionally there are times that within a crime that these guns pop up. I'm not sure if that's the last time one has actually been found and having committed a crime or whatever. But I know that in recent years, they occasionally would find a gun or a handgun or something that was used in a crime that was part of the Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
Yep, I remember that. Hearing about that. Yeah. So much. I mean, that's just a completely botched sting operation that they were trying to put on there. And imagine had they been successful, that would have been a big major news story and a big feather in Obama's cap. Instead, he bungled it. Eric Holder bungled it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they really intended for that to be a sting operation. They certainly called it that, though.
Right. Yeah, completely bungled for sure, without a doubt.
Yeah, he's talking. He said it was the Arab Gulf. I was going to say I didn't think it was the Gulf states in the United States, but the Arab Gulf states in 2009. I don't recall the incident, but so Obama did a lot of crazy things. What was that?
Right.
$500 million or more that he gave to Iran.
Right, Iran. And well, here's the thing with that money. It was Iranian money that had been frozen for decades, and essentially it was giving their money back to them. However, I wouldn't have done that. I would have kept it frozen for decades. I wouldn't have given it back to them at any point, especially until they give up being I guess a totalitarian type regime, until they have some sort of democracy in that country. I wouldn't give them a penny. And
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know why Obama did. Even if
So
it's their money, it's not like you've stolen it. You've merely frozen it within this country and Western banks who have agreed to go along with that asset freezing.
yeah,
So
that's exactly what it was.
so you didn't steal it from them. It's still their money. It's still there. It's just a matter of holding on to it for whenever they actually have a good government in place. That's the way I look at it. You're helping them
Yeah,
out.
they were frozen assets, and
Yeah.
had to do with their willingness to fund and encourage terrorism with the United States, primarily going against Israel. I mean, we know they fund Houthis and
Right.
what's it, Lebanon there. I can't think of them all, but they fund these people and to attack Israel, and
Yep.
they were attacking in the early 1980s. I believe they were attacking the United States warships and stuff. And when they
Sure.
putting
Sure.
bombs on them and things like that, and
Yeah.
that was all coming from I say Iran because that's what they used to say in the
Well,
1980s.
yeah, but
And a lot of people now, no, it's Iran. You got to say right. No, I still say Iran because that's how I was introduced to it. But
right. Yeah.
but they as long as they're going to be a terrorist state, then yeah, we were meeting to freeze their assets and sanction them to prevent them. Which, with the greatest irony here, what was it, a year ago, 2 years ago, year and a half ago, they had a Bell helicopter that they owned, but they couldn't get parts for, and it crashed and killed their president,
Right.
or whatever, their Ayatollah, whatever he is.
No, the Ayatollah is still very much alive. Yeah, it's Khomeini, right? You had Khomeini, then now it's Khomeini, right? Or was it Khomeini?
Yeah,
was
well,
first?
1980 was Ayatollah Khomeini.
Khomeini, yeah.
And he was
now
a pretty old guy back then, so I'm
Oh
kind
yeah.
of thinking he
Well,
might.
it's a different guy. It's Khomeini. Look alike, and the
Yeah.
names are similar. It's a different guy, by the way. It's
Yeah.
Khomeini.
So they still call him. They call their leader the Ayatollah, right?
Yeah, yeah, the Ayatollah. Yeah, I think that's more of a. I don't know if it's a religious / government, term. I don't know. I'm not going to look it up, but yeah, Ayatollah. Correct. Yeah,
Well,
and of course he's not necessarily in charge of the civil government, if you will. They have an elected president, and I'll use elected in quotations, but we all know who's really runs the whole country. It's the Ayatollah. Although they pretend like they don't run the government, which they actually do.
well, they're running I know it's a Muslim-based religion, right? And so they're running a theocracy.
Yeah, theocracy. Correct. Yeah, essentially.
And so then usually your theocratic leader, the Ayatollah, would be in charge.
Right.
So you could have, it's kind of like having a prime minister and having, I don't know. I would know how to compare it, I guess, but you would have it's like your state leader would be the governor or whatever, and the Ayatollah would be the actual controlling entity.
Right. Yeah, but they try to play it as if they're not controlling anything on on a daily basis, which they do. They absolutely do. But they try to play like they're above that. It's our government that handles all of that stuff. Nonsense. We know.
See, that's my issue with the whole head of state of the what do they call it, the Commonwealth there with all the
Commonwealth
oil.
realm. Yeah, the Commonwealth realm. Yeah.
Is I feel like if a guy's head of state and he has a governor in your country, whether the what do they call it, governor secretary, I don't remember.
Governor General. Governor General, yeah.
So if he's going to be there to represent the interest of the head of state, it's like, okay, so the head of state actually has a power in there. He has some sort of influence in there. There's not a governor general for no reason.
Well, the governor general is more of a liaison, and if you will, glorified liaison that has some general powers. I don't think they don't have any powers, any daily powers, anything like that. I think they have general powers that just basically stems from the fact that who they represent.
I think we got a paired. I'm not sure where that's coming in from. Is why do the presidents start the war? Why do they always send the poor? Right. Why are the police cars driving in your yard? I almost turned my head to look out.
I don't know what's going on.
I think he's doing song quotes here, but I don't know the song.
Tell me why Trump didn't put his hand on the Bible. Okay, well that was fairly simple. The Supreme Court justice started reciting the oath before his wife was able to get up there with the Bible, so he had already started the oath. And by the time she got up there, there was so many people around that he wasn't able to get his hand, I think, over to the Bible. The oath was almost over at that point. I mean, but technically, you don't have to put your hand on a Bible or anything to swear an oath. Yeah. The oath is the only thing that actually matters. It's not so much what you put your hand on. Now, I agree you should put your hand on a Bible. If you want to put your hand on a Constitution, by all means, for sure, people do that. I think I put my hand on a couple Bibles and a Constitution when I was sworn in to the local school board, and it was Bibles that meant something to me, that were sentimental. They had been my mother's, and one from that she had given me when I was a child, and of course a pocket Constitution I had. But you technically don't have to put your hand on anything to be sworn into office.
Yeah, I don't think he's a Trump fan.
No,
He was
no,
already
no.
president. He knows the drill. 45 and 47 equals 9/11.
Yeah, okay, 911, maybe emergency. I don't know. Oh, well,
9/11.
that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. What if we're gonna get a caller today? I'd love to have a caller. I mean,
Yeah.
fill up some of our time, right?
Yeah, where you at, Danny?
Danny, call in. Because I'd love because we didn't get an update from him last week, did we? I don't think it
No.
was a couple weeks ago before we heard from him. So love
Yeah.
to hear from him for sure. Yeah, love our callers, love our listeners and stuff. Some of the people that comment on the different social media platforms. I try to follow a couple of them while we're live, but I find that, it's kind of hard sometimes to get to all of them because we're on dozens of different platforms.
So, how did you enjoy your hands-off protest there in Tennessee, Todd?
I didn't know that it was going on until I saw it on social media and saw it in the newspapers. Yeah, and bought and paid for people to come to Northeast Tennessee to protest. I did see a couple people that I do know who are on the left from this area who did go out and participate, but for the most part, the people that I know here who live here that are on the left, they didn't go and participate in it. They were actually working today, so that day. So
I know my wife put a post out there on social media asking how many of these people got paid, and some of the people that she
a
knows actually
lot of
responded saying, "Well, I didn't get paid." It's like, not everybody gets paid. That's the concept. They create momentum by paying the few, so the rest of the people join in. And
right. Right. And it's funny is I was at my congresswoman, she had a, town hall. This was probably a month and a half ago. I went to, and to see the people that were there already there sitting in place ready to protest. It's like, I looked around and I'm like, I don't recognize most of these people being from our area. And a lot of them were, they just were trucked in essentially because they're getting a paycheck to come in and fill a spot and raise Cain, if you will, create havoc.
yeah, I know we had protests going on here in Concord, Manchester, Nashua. Um, I wasn't going to spend my time coming down to see it. If they
No,
want to protest, they're legally allowed, and
sure.
as long as they're not tearing stuff up. And I didn't feel like I had a reason to be there, and I definitely didn't want to be in support of it because I don't believe in it. Obviously, I'm a Trump supporter, and by the way, this gentleman here, Ted, he doesn't hate Trump. He doesn't hate anyone else. He just
That's
asks
good.
questions. So,
Sure. No
yeah,
problem.
that's genuine. That's how we should be. We
Yeah.
should be kind of neutral about things, not so hard right or so hard left about them. But
Common sense.
yeah, common sense, just like the
Mhm.
title.
Yep.
So yeah, no, yeah, but I wasn't gonna get involved in that stuff. I find that a lot of people do that stuff. They're too emotionally charged. You go in there, and if you say the wrong thing, it's just
Yeah.
things
Well,
blow up, and I don't want to be part of that.
right. Well, you talk about say support Trump or whatever. It's like whenever you run for office or you see people that run for office, you go to some of these political events, and some of the questions people ask, it's like, do you support Trump? And it's like I always say the first question you should probably ask: do I support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic? That should be the first question. Do you support the Constitution? Number one. Number two or three could be: do you support President Trump or whoever's in office? That's fine. It's a valid question to get somebody's mindset. But at the same time, shouldn't you get the mindset of the person? Directly from the horse's mouth, if you will. Ask them those direct questions. Leave the questions of who you support maybe down the line. Constitution should be first and foremost, I think.
That's a good point. That's an
Yep.
absolutely good point. I mean, um, we have too many groupthink processes
Right.
when we start doing these things, and
The
people get
echo
involved
chambers.
in, it turns into, well, you get these people like say the hands-on, movement. A lot of people went down and interviewed, and some people were actually attacked for interviewing. They didn't really signal or say, "Hey, I'm a conservative or a Trump supporter." They are very neutral, button-up shirt, nothing to indicate that they were left or right. They just wanted to go down and interview, and I think they were trying to be neutral, but being
Right.
attacked for doing it,
Sure.
they assumed that they were just all Trump supporters and literally attacked them for it or jumped on them and told them they didn't belong there, which is ironic because your First Amendment says you have a right to be a journalist.
Right.
You have a right to attend these things and interview people if they so wish to. They don't have to talk to you, but if you're there, they have no right to stop you from exercising your rights. People don't realize the rights stop when they infringe on other people's rights.
Sure.
You don't get to say I have a right to protest, but you don't have a right to be here and interview people. You know.
Yeah, no, I have every right to go document anything that's happening in a public space because I help pay for that public space one way or another. I help pay for the police. I help pay for the roads, the highways, whatever. I help pay for the people who come in there and clean that stuff up, mow the lawns, whatever the case may be. I have every right to be there just the same. Now, I don't have a right to come and interfere with your protest and infringe upon you, but at the same time, you don't get to kick me out if I want to show up and just be there and kind of observe.
Exactly.
No.
So during the course of a lot of this, you got a lot of people that were just trying to give formed answers, things that they basically reading from a piece of paper sort of thing. You know what I mean? They got the formed answers already ready and available. They
Yeah.
don't know what they're talking about. They have no
No.
depth about what they're talking about. They're just
No.
trying to give answers that they were told to give.
Yeah, they have the talking points. Hey, if they're going to probably
Exactly.
ask these questions, or if they ask similar questions, here's your answer. To me, that's not an organic protest. An organic protest would be me showing up with, "Hey, I don't like that. I'm going to come protest against that, and I'm going to give you my own answers. I'm not going to sit there and give some formed, canned answer that somebody from who's paying for the protest, decided it would be the answer. No, thank you. Don't put words in my
Exactly.
mouth. I'll come up with my own words, my own response, if you will. If I wanted to come out and protest Trump's tariffs, I could do that without supporting the left. As a free American, I have every right to be able to do that. But what's sad is you have so many people that will ask that first question of, do you support Trump? Not realizing that's not the first question they should be asking. Do you support the Constitution? Sure. And whenever Trump's wrong, we should be able to call him out on that. It doesn't mean you despise Trump, hate Trump, or don't support his agenda. It's just in that particular moment on that particular issue, you don't support him. And I think we should be looking for people like that to represent us. And whenever we talk about representing people in public office, those are the people you should look for. People who can stand up and say, I don't support Trump on this, but I support him on this, this, and this. But I support the Constitution first and foremost. That's who you should vote for.
I get into some of these. You go to TikTok or you go to X, especially TikTok. I hear people asking that very question: who'd you vote for? That's the first thing I know when they let people into a box. Who'd you vote for? And in
Right.
some cases, they were genuine about it because they were asking who they voted for because they were looking for oppositional to create dialogue.
Yeah.
So they wanted opposition. They wanted people that voted for Harris so they can actually have some engaging dialogue and get to nuts and bolts of things. Now that's kind of pretty cool. Because you're doing
fine.
the opposite of groupthink. You're actually seeking out people that will give you oppositional thought. And it's good because you grow off each other. I've had people that were on the left and me being on the right. We had conversations and I've learned from them having
Sure.
those conversations because they made me think about things and have
Yeah.
to evaluate things differently.
Yeah, we have very few on social media that want opposition. Usually, it's like you said, the group think. It's the echo chamber. You go into some social media group, whatever it may be, Facebook, and you look at the name and you figure out what you're going to get inside there. Are you going to get anything out of it? Most of the time, you're not. So if I'm added to groups sometime, or if I join a group, and this has been many years since I have, I'll kind of scroll through and see what it's about, see what they're talking about. If it's no real good dialogue, it's just posting memes and nonsense and you're just ranting. I don't want to be a part of that because I want to be able to learn something new or grow, if you will. Opposition, I think, helps you grow, helps you decide, hey, do I really believe in this? You know what I mean? Why do I believe in this? I think that's what's important. Not the echo chamber that's going to support your opinions, but somebody that's going to test you. I think that's what's important and what's needed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Do you have vehicle inspections in your state?
No, not in Tennessee. No vehicle inspections. Although I think we should probably look at doing some of that with some of the ratty vehicles I see on the road, for crying out loud.
Don't say that. I was going a different direction.
Oh, I'm sorry. But go ahead.
Oh yeah. So I grew up in Florida, and we didn't. Florida does not have vehicle inspections. They do not have state income tax, but they do have sales tax, which
Sure.
I really hate. Because every time I go, I forget New Hampshire doesn't have a sales tax. And when I go down to Florida and I go to purchase something, I got to add up for the 6.5%, or if you're in Orlando, 9.5%, 10%, whatever it is now. And so it kind of, you realize what you're spending. And this is what I was talking about earlier about having consumer taxes. At least you're more aware of your spending and you count on paying the taxes. But since I pay income tax to the federal government, I hate it when I have to pay sales tax. It drives me nuts. So I guess I got spoiled here in New Hampshire because we don't have it. But we do have a vehicle tax or a vehicle inspection requirement, an annual inspection. And there's a law, what is it? HB 694, I think it is, where they're trying to get rid of it.
Okay.
I'm all for it. It cracks me up because it costs about $45 a year to get a car inspection. If you own 2 or 3 cars, that's 45 times 3.
Mhm.
But more importantly, it's the time. Because you got to take each car in. If you're just one person, you got to take all 3 cars in at different times. You can't just drive them all there at the same time and get it done at
Right.
once. So it's a pain in the butt to have to get it done. And we've had times where there used to be this rip-off place over here in Hudson, New Hampshire called Break and Go. And they're no longer there. They were bought out. But I mistakenly went there. I decided I wasn't going to go there anymore. And I mistakenly went there one day because I needed an auto inspection. I was driving by, I go, oh, let me whip in here and get it done. I got some extra time on my hands. Well, I didn't think about it. I whipped it in there, got it lined up to the door, got it up on the lift. And he comes out there. He says, well, you got a problem with your steering on your car. It's got to be fixed before it'll pass inspection. And I'm like, say, what?
Yeah.
I think who you're talking to, bud.
Yeah,
So
but we can do it for it'll be $400 and
that's what they were doing, right? So then
Oh, yeah.
he says, let me show you. He goes to show me. I said, there's nothing wrong with that. And I said, you know what? Get my car off your. That's when it kicked in. That's when a little light bulb went in my head and I realized my mistake. So I said, you know what? Get my car off your left. I'll pay you for your inspection. I got to go.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. But as I'm walking out, he points over and goes, oh yeah, we're doing a job over here for that very thing. So I'm walking out the door and I hear a woman walking out behind me. She goes, wow, they told me I had that problem last year. How long do these front ends last for? I'm like, you're getting ripped off, lady. You need to take your car elsewhere. This place stinks.
Yeah.
And I wish I'd remembered that. So I didn't say anything to anybody. I took the car down to a different lot and had him put it up on the lift. And he comes out. And apparently that's when I learned that they must put this information in the computer system. Because he comes out and says, oh, I can't find anything that guy said was wrong with your car, John. I go, thank you. I didn't think there was anything wrong with my car. Right. And so this is the things we have to suffer sometimes when we're forced to get annual inspections. These shops are basically raping people. They don't know anything about auto mechanics. They don't understand what these mechanics are talking about. And so they're putting them on lists and they're ripping people off. That doesn't mean every shop's doing it, but it leaves people vulnerable to charlatans out there.
And there are some of those shops that that by word of mouth to go to because they're more lenient as well. As long as you're going to pay, whatever little extra that they want you to pay, you know what I'm saying? But you're going to pass the inspection though.
I knew a shop like that somebody comes along and says, hey man, go to Slappy down the road and he'll slap a sticker on there for you. He didn't charge you extra. The guy that was working for him was just kind of like taking care and was just slapping stickers on. And
there was I think Hawaii, whenever I was stationed there for 3.5 years, they had an inspection, I do believe. And there was a place like that in Honolulu somewhere. And I would take my car there and get it inspected. And like maybe like a few months after the last time I did it, they got shut down because it was one of those types of places, But I generally had everything maintained on the vehicle, but I needed a good inspection because I didn't need you to nitpick every little thing. I want you to. I can do the maintenance on my car, or I can take it somewhere and get it done. But I don't need to be raked across the coals here. At the same time, I would rather get in and get out. And there was one of those places that come to find out, he was a slappy too.
Yeah. Some people treat you fairly, and some people are just, man, all they want is the money.
Yep.
So a lot of people argue. I get these arguments, right? WMUR is a local ABC station here in New Hampshire, and they had a post on this, and I'm reading through it. I'm scrolling through the comments and reading these comments, and these people are like, oh, welcome to New Hampshire. We're going to have the worst cars on the road. But they don't realize that all these states that don't have state inspections don't have any worse accident rates going out there on their roads. They're no worse than we are. So what's the point of having an inspection? Most people usually fix their cars, whether they're fixing them themselves or somebody's fixing them. When you're a man who's turning wrenches like I do, then you know what's wrong with your car. You're aware of things and you keep up on things.
Yep.
I have one guy actually come along and says, well, I want to make sure my car is safe and inspected every year, so we need to have this law in place. I go, well, excuse me. You can actually go down to the mechanic and request inspection anytime you want to. They're glad to do it for you and charge you a reasonable fee for it, I'm sure.
Right.
You can do it 12 months out of the year if you'd like to. But why do I have to be held accountable to your stupidity? Because you can't just go do it on your own. You need a law to pamper you or hold your hand to the inspection station. If you need to have it inspected and you're too stupid to know how to work on your car, then take it down there and get it done. I don't care.
Yeah, but there's a lot of ratty cars that are on the road, even places that have inspections. Virginia, right across the border here from where I'm at. I mean, I could, from the time we have our show, I could walk to Virginia and back probably a couple of times That's how close I live. And some of those cars are some of the most rattiest that are on the streets, and I'm like, these cars should have been off the road years ago. But again, they take it to a slappy place, throws a sticker on it. It shouldn't be on the road.
Okay, Holden. Okay, now you're getting me. Driving is considered a privilege and not a right. After sales tax, they keep taxing every year, or your vehicle can be impounded. Okay, they do tax. Driving was actually ruled as a right originally because you have a right to travel, and it was ruled that it was challenged in court, and it was ruled that you have a right to travel and using a modern day conveyance is part of that right. And then some jackwagon judge comes along and says, well, driving is also dangerous. Therefore, it's no longer a right. It's a privilege. I'm sorry. A right is a right. You can't just sweep it away just because you think it's unsafe to drive. It's unsafe to shoot guns if you don't know what you're doing, but it's still a right. You can't sweep a right away. The rest of us know what we're doing,
Yeah.
Go get trained. They offer courses in it. Did I just,
Yeah, but there are a lot of people that should not be on the road. I would agree with that, but at the same, we do have laws in place that can help get them off the road.
Look, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration was given the power by U.S. Congress to create the minimum standard for training. Boy, did they take that like a challenge and make it as minimum as they could. So the people getting training in these schools aren't getting training at all. I get a guy walks up to me and says, excuse me, could you help me couple my trailer? I'm like, excuse me? Yeah, I got to hook my tractor up to my trailer and I need some help because nobody taught me how to do this. I'm like, where'd you go train at? Where did you learn how to drive trucks? Because that's like a primary thing. It's the first thing you learn is how to couple a truck and trailer. They don't teach them these things anymore. And it can be a safety issue. If you get a high hook, you don't know what you're doing, or if you don't understand when you're checking for gaps in the on the locking jaws and things like that, that trailer can break loose and kill somebody.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's some of the most basic stuff you should be taught. For crying out loud, if you're going to haul the trailer, you should know how to hook it up. How do you hook your brake lines up? Your emergency brake in case the trailer breaks away, right? I imagine a semi truck has one of those emergency breakaways, right? I don't know.
The trailer breaks away. No, your airline's let loose and the brakes will lock
locks
up.
Right? So they have one, essentially.
Guess what happens when they lock up on a 70, 75 mile an hour interstate?
Not good. Yeah, not good. Yeah.
Somebody might come up behind you and nail that trailer pretty hard. I got experience.
Yeah, but the trailer that I have to haul a vehicle has one of those emergency cables in case it pulls away.
Yes. Okay, tractor trailers, they don't have that.
Right. Yeah, but essentially, by the air, the air separating it locks it up. I know that's probably not safe, but it does stop it.
It's never a good thing to lose.
It does stop it though eventually. Yeah, no.
It would eventually stop if it don't slide off the road. It'll stop right in the middle of the road, and it could be. It's a scary thing. Or if you get a high hook and hit a bridge.
Yeah.
What if it's a pedestrian bridge?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's not good. So knowing what you're doing is important, and ill training people and put them out on the roads is dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And and you see a lot of these the ill trained people, like you said, are some of the bigger companies. I've noticed that. And they get in and a lot of them they think they're driving sports cars too. They do the left right lane changes, down the road, down the highway, and it's like, guys, stay in the right lane for crying out loud. You're not driving much faster than the other truck. Throttle your speed back a little bit. You're going 2 miles an hour faster. It's going to take you an hour to pass the guy. Stay in the right lane, and also stop the switching back and forth. You're not a sports car. Understand that. The better drivers that I've noticed, the seasoned drivers, the independent owner and operators, they stay in that right lane until they know that they can hammer down and pass somebody. Then they get back over safely. The old salty guys that are out there, to borrow a phrase from the military, they seem to know what the heck they're doing. These young guys that you see at the truck stops, it's like they're kind of scared and lost. It's like the seasoned guys, they're in and out, boom, boom. They can park those things like it's going out of style. Just amazing watching them park some of those big trucks. But some of those young guys, they hit everything that they can going in and out the parking lots. It's wild.
Yeah, that's getting into a hurry. Anybody gets into a hurry is destined to get themselves into an accident.
Sure.
The thing about lane changing is it was actually a larger company with Schneider National Carriers. I was at one time, one of their courses, and they I had a truck leased onto them many years ago, and they come up with something that's called a 7-second lane change. And you let your flash for 4 seconds and take 3 seconds to overtake the lane. And the reason for that is, one, you're communicating because you get time
Yep.
to see your flasher, and two, as you're overtaking the lane slowly, people in your blind spot have a time to adjust and either come into your vision or get out of your way.
Right. Bingo.
So,
That's right.
and then that goes to what you were saying about erratic lane changes. It's dangerous to do that. You make erratic lane changes, you run somebody off into a ditch. It's their life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't even care if you're driving a small sports car. These erratic lane changes are dangerous because you're not clearing your blind spot fully, even in small vehicles.
Well, now with cars, the biggest thing about cars, they might have a line of sight. They might be able to see their lane changes and know
Sure.
what they're doing as far as lane changes, even if they're erratic. But the problem is, this guy over here doesn't understand what he's doing when he's making a erratic lane change, and he's doing it so fast. And this guy's trying to maneuver. Now you have a conflict. If they slow down, take their time, and do non-erratic lane changes, like you were saying, this guy can see what he's doing in time before they actually bump and marry paint. Holden is concerned about property tax at this time. He says, same thing with property tax. How many years am I going to be charged for this lumber and nails that's paid off? I ask myself, well, I'm not really paying property taxes on my house because I'm paying for the house. I'm paying property taxes on my house because I'm paying for the services provided for my household, like law enforcement if I need them, or fire department, God forbid, if my house catches fire. I hope they're there in time.
Sure. Absolutely.
Sometimes they save lives doing this. And so, I mean, I understand the concerns about property tax. And sometimes I think property taxes can be very unfair, and people get overtaxed and overcharged. And some places have allowed variances on it where you can file because of the burdens of property tax, so you can get it reduced. So you can afford to live. But I don't know of an alternative, Holden. That's my point of view on this. Is if you got a answer for what's an alternative to property tax, so we can still afford our law enforcement officers and the other things that we need, our roads and
schools and other things that are funded. Yeah.
I mean, the schools are a killer. The schools drive me down. This is where Holden's point comes to view, is the excess amount of money that's wasted in schools and stuff like that, because they make up about, where I live, I think they make up about 2/3 of our property taxes.
Well, sure, but I can tell you, we just had our school budget meeting today, the first of many to come, and I can tell you, we're not bringing in exorbitant amounts of money. I can tell you that. We're basically on the margins trying to make it work for the year. We may turn in some money at the end of this year, but I can tell you it may not be a lot. And I can tell you after next year's budget, it definitely won't be a lot of money because we're going to basically pinch pennies here.
Yeah. Well, we're conservatives generally do, and I think you live in a conservative area.
Yeah, fairly conservative for sure. One of the reddest counties in the nation, actually.
I know I've heard stories about spending on things that blows my mind. One of the things that we've seen a lot of spending on, and it's nationwide, is these what do they call them, Chromebooks, and giving every kid in the country a Chromebook. Seems like they're not terribly expensive in general, but buying them in
right.
What is he saying here? $40,000 hammers.
Well, speaking, yeah, right.
No, this is ridiculousness, and this is where you need to attend your town city meetings or whatever, so you can start getting on top of their expenditures, because they do hold them.
Right. Well,
and you need to speak up on these matters yourself and group people together, man. This is a part of what conservatives have been talking about a lot. Is part of taking this country back and taking our power back as a people is getting involved in our local politics.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of Chromebooks, I know that there's the neighboring county, Hawkins County. They hand out Chromebooks to all their students, and in fact, the person who brought the dog here, Carrie, who's now back over here right now, who brought the dog Sprout. Sprout's the dog's name that you saw in the first hour. But she's the one who's in charge of that at the high school she works at, the issuing the Chromebooks and all that. And yeah, absolutely, that's expensive as all heck, and especially the way kids don't take care of them anyway.
Yeah, they
break them.
About that. The cat peed on them. Down by my brother, and Dad got angry and threw it or whatever.
Right.
No, these Chromebooks come back broken, so I guess they decide next time around, you're either making a deposit or you're going to pay for the broken Chromebook.
Yeah, but if that was your Chromebook or MacBook or whatever the case may be, iPad, iPhone, whatever, would you not take care of it? So why not take care of this piece of property that maybe you didn't go to the store and buy, but your taxpayers paid for it one way or another. Your taxes paid for it.
Yeah,
why would you not take care
paying for it?
Yeah. I mean, people just think, oh, it's just government. So it's like, oh, whatever. I can just treat it like however. It's like, but you paid for that one way or another.
Yeah,
So.
no, government cracks me up. You know, I was at a town meeting not too long ago, and they were talking about the dump trucks and stuff they got to replace, in which I understand the salt and stuff does a lot of damage, and you know, they go through a lot, and they managed to make these trucks last for a long time. I think just about 20 years. So no doubt they got their money out of it. They've got a great maintenance shop, and they put new frames into things and everything. And Holden says the Chromebooks are triple in price now. Yeah, they got expensive, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So, but one of my concerns is if you got a working motor, you got a working transmission, you got working rear ends, instead of going out leasing dump trucks for like $600,000, time when you get them paid off, and then you got a balloon payment at the end. I'm not sure entirely what the contract is, but it was a lot of money, is what I'm getting at. Way overpriced at time when the whole contract's over with. I'm thinking there's such thing as a glider kit. You know, buy a glider so you got the body, the frame, and everything, and drop your working motor. And you don't put a lot of mileage on them anyway, but drop your working motor, transmission, and rear ends into a new kit and run that down the road and save the town some money. But I don't think they think that way. You know, they think in terms of well, these lease purchase programs, and I think they get themselves talked into it. We probably got people that are trying to negotiate in deals that they don't understand.
Oh, sure. And of course, they toss in, oh, the maintenance package, the maintenance
No,
package.
that's what I asked him. I'm like, so is it the maintenance
okay.
package that sold you on? He goes, oh, no, we're
Okay.
responsible for all the maintenance. I go, are you kidding me?
Yeah, you're getting ripped off if you're not getting at least a few years worth of maintenance out of it. Come on now.
So, yeah, Bill Gates ripping people off, and soon he says, yeah, I didn't think the Chromebooks were terribly expensive as far as an item goes, but of course it's all software based. It's not like a laptop where you got downloaded programs and things like that. It's all cloud based. So from my understanding, that's why they're so affordable, because you're not working off your own computer, you're working off the cloud and things. So
yeah, generally, yeah.
They're like a couple $100 or something a piece, I think. But still, I mean, like we said, you know, when you're buying tens of thousands of them, they add up quick.
Well, and then of course you got all the peripherals that go along with them. Chargers and stuff like that. How much does a charger cost? I mean,
well, I hope it comes with it.
What I'm saying is they're generally lost on a regular basis. So you got to get another one. I mean, and you're always coming back. Hey, I need another charger. You know, do they make these kids go buy their own charger if they break one, lose one, whatever? You know, to me that's something that you shouldn't lose. I mean, unless you lose the entire laptop or Chromebook, whatever you want to call it. Then you should have every accessory right there that you got issued, whether you got a mouse issued or whatever the case may be. I don't know. Generally, you should be able to turn everything in at the end of the year with little to no breakage. I think, but they don't take care of it because it's not theirs, and they don't think of it as having they paid for it one way or another through taxes. A lot of people think it's government. Oh, it's free. It's free money. It's free whatever.
Not to be contradictory, but I do like when I was walking the dog and we walked through the school, I'd find coats and shoes and things that were left there in the school grounds where kids forgot them. I think it's in the nature of children anyway. You know, 6th graders, 7th graders, and so forth. And younger.
But once you get to high school,
and when I was a kid, if you forgot your coat, your dad would be going, "Where's your coat?" You would know that your coat was missing because you hadn't been wearing it. It's like, "Where's your coat?" Oh, right. I think you got your butt chewed, man. It was no light thing. It was like, oh, we'll just buy you another one. It was like, man, that costs money. March your butt over there and go get it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I remember going shoe shopping or specifically for school, going clothes shopping or going coat shopping, specifically during the school year. You had different things. And knowing you're going to outgrow them at some point, but at the same time, your mom and dad had to work for that, for crying out loud. That's hard-earned money. How dare you lose that coat, no matter what it costs you, whether it costs $20, $25 back in the day, or whether it's $100, $150 today. It doesn't matter. That's hard-earned money. That's your parent had to work for hours, probably to buy that coat or buy those clothes. You better take care of them. You should.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a matter of respect, I think.
So I think Holden might be late for the party here. So he says Chromebook is made in China. The tariffs are going up, are 125% now. Yes, but as we were talking earlier, Holden, if it's an item that we benefit as a nation from, we can drop that 125% tariff down to 2%, because it benefits us to do that. So it may or may not go up, depends on how the president and his staff looks at the needs of the American people or how people address it with his office.
Right. And there's a number of things that are already within the system, if you will, the supply chain, that's pre-tariff, so that you could buy those without having the tariff right on it. Those will run out at some point soon, but there's enough in this nation right now that we can weather these tariffs for a period of time. Depending on what the item is, we can weather it for a few weeks, probably a few months in some situations, because we have enough on the shelves and in supply chains.
Yeah.
It's going to run out. The tariffs will kick in eventually, but I think it'll get to the point where China will probably come to the table. There'll be some tariffs that'll be left in place, but it won't be 125%. It'll go down precipitously. I think in a matter of a month or couple months, eventually China will come to the table, I think. But in the meantime, I think a lot of these nations that have been buying from China will probably start buying from the U.S. And whenever that starts to happen, China starts to see that bottom line being cut into by the U.S. They'll probably come to the table at that point.
Yeah, I think the retaliation at 84% tariffs is laughable. I don't think we ship a whole lot out to China. We ship out plastics, we ship out recyclables, and even then they weren't buying them all up. I mean, I've worked in landfills and stuff, dumping stuff where they're moving plastics over to the fill, that were meant to be recyclable because China wasn't buying it. So they don't necessarily buy up everything that we have. Steel and stuff we were getting from China.
Which
we were getting from China, like we said in the first hour. And Trump wants to bring that manufacturing back to the United States, which would probably get a better grade of steel because
easily, yes.
Yeah, China was selling us inferior products. What about antibiotics? Here again, that's an item that may be in high demand that we don't manufacture in the United States. Until we do, we'll probably reduce our medicines and stuff like that. I'm sure that will reduce tariffs on those things because people absolutely need them. That's a health issue. And we don't want to exactly put people in the poorhouse because they need antibiotics. That's kind of ridiculous. But here again, understanding how tariffs work, they not everything falls on the consumer on tariffs. Some corporations may have to eat the cost because they realize they're being outpriced in the market. And so they might go from these huge profits that they've enjoyed in the past down to, we're going to have to eat 15% of this now.
Yeah.
And still make a profit.
Sure. But a lot of these things, we have the ability to make them, manufacture them within the U.S. We just don't do it anymore. It's going to take us some time to be able to bring that up to speed to put them online. But if somebody wants to invest in some of these things, you're probably going to make a lot of money. Pharmaceutical company, if you will, an upstart that manufactures everything here. I know you're going to have a lot of competition from the big companies, Pfizer or whatever the case may be. But manufacture it here, you're going to make a lot more money in the long run. It may take you a while and a lot of money to outlay up front to get everything ready, but you'll make more money in the long run, I think, and it'll be a bit more beneficial to your company, and your company's bottom line will go up. That's the way I look at it.
Well, overall, it's going to be beneficial for our economy. It's going to be beneficial for working class people as we consume labor resources. That means people's wages are going to go up.
There could be more
higher
jobs
demand.
More jobs created.
It may actually be a case where we hand out working visas to people to come to the country for 3-year working visas or whatever, and to fill those labor gaps, which will help grow our economy. And as far as pharmaceuticals go, everybody likes to say, China makes all of our pharmaceuticals. Dude, I'm a truck driver. I remember when I used to pull stuff out of the port in Jacksonville and run up to Chicago to all these pharmaceutical companies because they were making, I don't know if it was the aerosol cans or what they were making in Puerto Rico, but they were shipping them over to Florida, and then we were transporting them up to Chicago to be completed and filled and stuff like that. And then they were going out from there. We do a lot of pharmaceutical manufacturing in the United States. We do a lot of manufacturing people are unaware of.
Yep. No, yeah, that's true. I agree with you on that one. But yeah, people just aren't aware of exactly what is manufactured here. And it's not something that we're out there every day. You don't advertise, hey, we make little widgets for, the tops of aluminum cans, it's like, we don't do that. We advertise the end item product. We don't, everything that went into it, every little chemical, we don't say that chemical was produced in the U.S. So that, we don't do that. We advertise the final product, like WD-40, it sells itself, but still we advertise the end product. We don't advertise the aluminum and where it was mined at and how it was formed and which company did this and did that. No, we advertise the end item product, and that's it. So a lot of people don't know much about it other than what the end item is,
Mm-hmm. We also have a lot of white label companies too.
Yeah. Oh,
that
yeah.
manufacture
absolutely.
things, and people put their name on it. They didn't have anything to do with the manufacturing.
Well,
of it.
and it's funny is there's a lot of those types of companies that manufacture some of the name brand stuff, but they also have their off brand, and it's the same product.
Oh,
Yeah, sometimes they leave a little something out, or maybe it's not quite to the same standard, but it's a lot of times it's the same product. Cereals, a lot of cereal manufacturing companies that do that. They have several different brands for different stores, and it's the same exact product, but it's just repackaged into whatever that store's that brand is.
right. So years ago, and I'm not trying to contradict you 100%. I
Oh, of
understand a
course
lot
not.
is made overseas. It's true. But I, as a truck driver, we used to pick up these little, they look like little test tubes or something, these tiny little vials, whatever. And they were in big bulk containers. And I remember taking them to a place called Cox Beverages in North Carolina. And they had Cox Beverages in Tampa, Florida. And what they were 2-liter bottles, but they weren't blown up yet. They were formed, and they went into a mold where hot air is blown in there, and they blow them up into 2-liter bottles. And this manufacturing company was making for, say, Publix grocery stores, Winn-Dixie grocery stores, for their brands. So they give them a recipe for what they want manufactured. Then they tell them to run a product line of so much, and they make their orders in, and that's what they did. They would shut down, create this product line for this store, and then shut down, set up a product for this their store, and they were a white label company.
Sure.
So like Sam's Cola, Sam does, Walmart doesn't have their own, as far as I know.
No,
They don't
no.
have their own manufacturing plant for their sodas. They go to a third-party entity who just white labels
Right.
the product for them.
Right, and sometimes it's the same exact. So, say soda, for example, or Coca-Cola, whatever. Sometimes it's the same exact formula, and it's just sold under different brands. Different. Like you said, the different stores. Whether it's Piggly Wiggly, Dominic's, whatever the case
Piggly
may
Wiggly.
be, Kroger, yeah. Which Piggly
Yeah.
Wiggly was founded in Tennessee. Was actually the first organized grocery store, by the way.
Oh, was it really?
In the country, out of Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah, it is a southern store. I grew up
Right.
down in Florida, so yeah, I'm familiar with the Piggly Wiggly. The name always cracks me up.
It is funny. Yeah. Piggly Wiggly. And if people say, "Oh, it's Elmer Fudd," it's like, no, that the Piggly Wiggly had the mascot before Elmer Fudd was ever thought of. So, it's not Elmer Fudd. It's its own mascot. It just happens to be a pig that looks like Elmer Fudd. Sorry. But anyway, I just thought about that because of mascots or whatever.
No, yeah. No, it's interesting to hear stuff like that.
But we're talking about branding, if you will, and like foods. Let's say Frosted Flakes as an example. You have like the store brand version, like you said, the white label companies. They may make for several different companies like Kroger, Food City, whatever the case may be. But it's the same exact formula for the most part. It's just a different packaging.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Yeah, I love it. And of course, you see it being in logistics. You probably see it more than I do. I just notice it by being a consumer going to different stores.
Right. No, yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. That's exactly what they do. They get these off brands, and that's what they do, the white label stuff.
Yep. And
so-
you individually, if you could do that, if you had a company that would manufacture whatever and put your name on it, your own logo, it's just up to you to sell it somewhere or have a store stock your stuff. But you could do the same thing.
So social media influencers do it all the time, right? They're in the middle of their program or their show or whatever. They take a break and say, well, let's talk about our merch.
Right.
Sure, ladies and gentlemen, you can get your t-shirts, hats, and whatever all from our line. And that's what they're doing is they contact this printing company, and they have their t-shirts all printed up and things like that.
Yeah.
Some places actually do drop shipping, which is great.
Sure. I know a guy. He's not a close friend, but I use more of an acquaintance. He had his own line of pancakes, syrups, and all this stuff for a number of years. I don't know. I think mostly he sold it online, but he had his own brand. And I'm like, I started doing a little looking into that. And I'm like, oh, I could approach these companies and do the same thing if I wanted to. But who's going to buy Todd McKinley brand, fabric softener or something like that? Not going to happen.
Well, you never know,
but
man.
you
It's
could
all
do
about.
it, though.
I'm telling you, man. Everything is about marketing. I mean, look at
Right.
Trump's campaign. Trump's campaign was all about marketing. Look
Yeah.
back Obama's campaign. He had some of the greatest marketing techniques. Man, not my favorite president by far, but I give him credit on that. I forgot who his guy was. There,
But he brought Obama did bring campaigning into the 21st century. I will give him that credit for sure.
But it was Clinton's campaign manager.
Right.
He
But,
picked. I
yeah.
don't remember his name.
Yeah, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, he modernized campaigning in the 21st century.
And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's our bit for tonight. We hope you got something out of it. Join us again next week, same time, same place. and we'll do it all over again. Otherwise, stay tuned, WSMN. Enjoy it. Have a good week.